Motion to approve the April 20th special meeting minutes.
Thanks, Scott.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we got a second from Ross and Val, so we're good there. Val, what's your vote?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Ross?
Aye.
And Scott. Okay. Got them all. And we've got one more set of minutes, the special meeting when we talked about the approving the public hearing for the water rate discussion. We need really no discussion on that. We'll see the motion. Everybody look over those. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, Val and Scott?
Aye.
And Larry?
Aye.
Scott? Ross?
Aye.
And Val?
Aye.
Good, all the minutes are approved then, thank you. Next action is on the treasurer's report. The April 2020 treasury report, which was online and in the packet, so any discussions there? If not, we need a motion to approve.
Make a
Entertain
motion.
Motion to approve
it, and
the
then we need,
2020 treasurer's report.
I'll second.
okay. We got a motion, we made the motion, someone made the motion, did you get that, Zach?
Yep.
All right, so we can vote. Larry?
Aye.
Ross?
Aye.
Val?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Good, thank you, we got through all of the reports. The next item on my agenda is the approval of the pay request, first pay request for South Main paving project. I know some of you have been down to look at it, but they've gotten quite a bit accomplished there. Looks like the actual change order that we did with Dave and Kim, and we got that line run from the retention pond all the way, so now it's heading towards the east. But if you look at that, it looks like it was pretty necessary to do that. Looks like they did a good job on that as well. So I guess what we're looking for is a motion. If you have some discussion, we can talk about it. Otherwise, an approval to pay the pay request on South Main.
I move that we pay request number 1 on the South Main paving project.
Okay, we need a second.
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 We got one motion to approve and 3 seconds. That's good. Ross
Aye.
and Scott
Aye.
and Val
Aye.
and Larry.
Aye.
Good. That's very good. The next item of action is the ordinance. If we want to talk about passing an ordinance to increase water rates, either do it now or do it after the public hearing. I'm not sure what we wanted to do on that. I've had one council member said they think they should table it and wait. I don't know what the thoughts are of the rest of you.
Well, Paul, I've looked at this and I'm the council member that said I would like to have a table until we can sit down as a group and discuss it openly, because I would like to, my understanding, there's 3 user rates, right, Jim? Industry, commercial, and residential. Is that Jim there?
We got a list of the water rates in Wakefield currently, and I believe they all have the same rates. I'm not sure if there's an industrial rate or if it's just one single rate. There's also the rates that are shown there for people that live out of the city limits that receive water service from the city of Wakefield.
And
If
the
you
other
look at
thing I
that,
would like to see.
if you'd like to have a little more time to look at it, I know that's, Larry talked about that earlier. If you look at that list of rates, it's interesting to look at Creighton's and to see how high their water rates are. And that's where Senator Greger's from, and he's the one that said they need to really study and work on water issues across the state because they got hit with a huge increase, and it is really a large increase, much larger than what we're talking about. I think it's we know we're going to have to raise the rates at some time. The question, and I think Jim even mentioned that we could go on a two-step approach, but I think it would be good. It would be nice if we could get together and discuss it, but we may be in a situation where we want to table it for tonight and wait until after the public hearing, but I don't know if we need to set a rate tonight so that can be the topic of the public hearing or what the deal is with that for sure. Anyone kind of educate us on that? Jim, can you help us on that?
My other question, Paul, is how much estimate?
Go ahead, Larry.
My other question, Jim, is how much estimated revenue do you think we have to increase here with our projects going on?
I wish I knew the answer to that. That's a hard thing to come up with because we don't know what this project's going to cost us, and we don't know what that debt is going to do to add to our expenses. So to give you an honest answer, I can't tell you, and I don't think anybody will at this point in time. But the suggestion is if you want to try to just get caught up a little bit, we haven't raised rates for about 4 or 5 years there. So just to get a little increase in there to get that money generated.
Well, that's a big question I have I mean, if we don't know where we're going to be at in 6 months, we need to do some figuring and see what kind of revenue we need to stay caught up. And maybe it's going to take another 30 days for us to get some figures on cost for the project.
Excuse me.
Paul,
Yeah.
I would like to see some suggested increases, like a couple of different models that we could look at and see what we're going to make from that model and how we could apply it to what we need. You know, that in studying the rates that Jim sent out, different towns do it different ways. Some of the monthly fees are atrocious and some of them are very moderate, and the same thing with the water rates. Some of them are high, some are less, and I'd like to see a couple of different plans, you know, for us to look at to say, if we did this with the monthly fee and this with the gallons, and for commercial, for residential, for, you know, the industrial, yeah, I'd like to see some plans before we just vote to, yeah, let's increase it.
So you think we need more discussion at a table this for now is what you're saying, Val?
Yes, I think we need to have some plans to look at. Right now, it's all I'm hearing is we have to raise rates. Well, what are you talking? How much on a monthly fee? How much on on the per gallon? I'd like to see some different ways that we could adjust things so we could see what, try to make a decision as to what the people in town would be most okay with.
And I know when we built the water tower, we raised the rates, and I think we did it in a two-step approach.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we waited until the project was pretty well completed. And I also believe we did it in the wintertime where the usage is lower. So it wasn't quite as much of a shock as doing it in the middle of the summer. But there are a lot of things to think about, but I know that to pay for this project, we're going to have to raise the rates.
Mm-hmm.
And we just have to decide how to do that.
But at this point, the community doesn't understand what kind of project we've got going. They're just starting to hear about it. I think we need to let them know why we're considering it, what we have coming up, and what we're going to have to pay for, and say, there are a couple of different ways we can do it. What do you, and let them give us some
input for a week, a few weeks,
Right.
before we
and-
make a decision as to which is an easier, right, yeah.
And there's a lot of variables with the project to see if we apply for, or we can apply, and if we will obtain loans that are forgivable to 20%, or if there's a grant available. Jim talked about possibly bonding the issue. I've talked to a couple of councilmen about that, and they weren't totally in favor of doing that. One thought that we bonded before, we had $8 million of money on hand, and now we've got about $3 million. One was concerned with the amount of interest we'd be paying over a 30-year period of time. That's what the bonding was. So I think everyone is kind of mulling this over and trying to figure out what the best solution would be. And maybe
Jim,
we should table it for tonight and come back to it.
do we have to have any numbers figured out for when we do come to the public hearing, or?
That's what I was going to ask Jim. I don't think we do, Scott, but Jim could answer that better than I can.
I don't think we're gonna have those numbers according to the people at the state.
Okay.
You know, that when that committee might meet in June, it might meet in July. They're playing the COVID virus things too. Craig is supposed to be online here in a little bit. You want to maybe just hold off and visit with him a little bit?
Sure, to visit with Craig would be good. And I don't think we need it for the public hearing. I think we will need it when we start applying for help with some of the government funding that's possibly available to us. So Craig could maybe answer that. So can we table that for now?
Yeah, I do have a couple quick questions. I
Yeah.
guess as far as getting models, I think that's a good idea. The only problem with that is sometimes that's hard when, at least half of this is based on usage, which we can't predict. I guess you could throw an average out there, but if you're trying to come up with, if we raise a rate, how much we're going to gain, well, as far as financially, you really can't predict it. And then I guess I would like to see, if we do break it down residential, commercial, and industrial, do other towns do this? How do they do it? And how would it affect our businesses as well? So if we go with a kind of a threefold rate increase, I guess I would like to gain a little more information on that before we move forward on how that would affect, Michael Foods and different places like that use a lot of water. And how, again, maybe a model how that would affect our bottom line as far as income. But I do think I think we do need to go ahead and start easing things up. And I think in the next month or two, we should move forward with it.
Okay, all good. That's all good points of discussion. I think the one item that you talked about, we don't know, we can't really predict the rates. One of the reasons we're so far behind is because last year we didn't have water to irrigate lawns, and that's usually one of the big income times for the water department is the summer irrigation season for gardens and lawns and things. So we'll table that for now if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah.
The next agenda item that we have is passage of ordinance 5, 2020 park board membership. And the park board members that we brought up, I guess we have to pass the ordinance first and then approve probably the park board members. So this should be the third reading, is that right? So we just have to add someone that would introduce the ordinance and move to pass because this is the third reading.
I'll introduce ordinance 5-2020 and move for its final passage.
Okay,
A second.
all right. Ross?
Aye.
Hold it, Paul.
I'll just
Yeah.
There. We've been trying to get in. We got some issues here. It was introduced by Val at the last meeting, and you had your first reading, so it's actually the second, and
Okay,
you need the
So it's
motion
not the
to
third.
waive.
so we just have to do the third reading, or the second reading.
And you can waive the third reading. You need a motion to do that, and then you can move for passage.
So all we want to do is if we want to just go ahead with the second reading, what do? We just make a motion to approve the,
If you
Or we
just
just
do,
read it?
just do the second reading.
I think we better do it. I think we better at this time move to make a motion to move on with the second reading and get to the third. So just in case,
that's fine. We can do that.
And one other
We'll
item,
waive the-
Paul,
we'll waive the third reading.
Paul, can I interject for a minute?
Yeah,
We're ahead of the meeting, you know, the roll call was supposed to be at 5:30. So
oh, I thought it was 5, yeah, we started early, didn't we?
yeah, so I don't think you should really take action on like those things until 5:30. You can certainly discuss them, you know, that stuff, but and I think that's why Craig and that other hasn't called in
No,
yet.
we thought we started at 5 o'clock. I guess I got the wrong time on the thing.
Craig's on
We
now.
can have
Pat,
a
if you want to talk
discussion.
about that a little more.
Well, we can, if we've got 10 minutes, we have to wait to start all over again, then we can at least discuss some of these things that we have to, that are on the agenda. One of the things is the purchase of lots on South Main Street. And I look at that, and I don't think we should sell one developer 2 lots. I think we should sell him 1 lot if that's what he wants to do. I'm concerned with the 2 sides of the street on South Main. One side is fairly level. The other side, side of the street on the east almost dictates a walkout basement. And, you know, selling these with a down payment is okay, but I don't think we should let someone get to, unless they're ready to build 2 houses at the same time or something. But we've had a problem on the other issue with a different contractor where we've got 7 houses and we've got the 8th one is snuck in there, just an empty lot. And that ends up costing us money in tax revenue and water and sewer and electric revenue. So I think I think 1 lot at a time is the way to go. And I also think that that we have to be careful with the size of the homes. I think we should probably in the agreement make a certain number of square feet that the home needs to be. We've got good sized lots. We probably need to have a little bit more of a requirement as far as the square footage in the home. Those are just things that came to my mind as I have been trying to pay some attention to that. But if you walk South Main, you'll see that on the east side of the street, there's a pretty good level spot, and then it really drops off. And that's going to add to the cost of building a house, and it's going to limit what type of a house you can build. So personally, my opinion is we should sell 1 lot and not 2.
Which lots are we talking about?
1 and 2, I think.
1
Okay,
and 2. Foots are gonna, I think, call in, Paul, or join in at some point. They were gonna try and attend the meeting, so they might be able to.
That's fine. We just got a work session, but
They're
I
on.
want to know what the rest of the council thinks about, you know, just discussion on all the lots and everything else.
I don't have a map in front of me. Which lots are 1 and 2?
Next to Tim and Wes's, the 2 south of there, same side of the street.
Okay.
And if you look at the area south, you can build a ranch-style home real easily. But what happens if somebody else comes along and they want to pay the full value of the lot and they want to build the house immediately, and they want to build a ranch home? We won't have a real good site for them. And I think that if the contractor's just going to build 1 house at a time, I think we're better off to sell 1 lot and see where we go from that.
Do we have something in our purchase agreements that they have to complete the
The other
project?
lots are appreciably different than the lots on the west side.
Do we have something in the purchase agreement that they have to complete the project within 2 years?
Should be 1 year, I think. We got burned on that too, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion.
But is that in the purchase agreement, or was that part of the housing program that we went with a couple of years ago?
Well, my thoughts are we ought to change the purchase agreement. First of all, our prices are probably low. I don't care if we change that or not. Our goal is to get houses, but I also don't think that we should have low prices and a low down payment and no restrictions as to the size of the house or as to when the home has to be completed. I think we need to put those things, my opinion is those things should be in the agreement. And if you're ready to build a home, those things aren't hard to put in the agreement. And
We should probably have a resolution setting all those policies in it. That'd be the clearest way to do that.
I'd like to see a minimum, just say, hey, the purchase price is this, the down payment is this. You have to have the home done in 12 months because the amount due is, right now we've got the deal where they can wait until they sell the house. And that doesn't bother me as long as they've got a house that's built. But I just think that I think we have to worry about the fact that we are supposed to be a business taking care of taxpayer dollars and not just promoting the sale of lots.
Do we not have any of those in the purchase agreement right now?
I don't know what's in there.
No, we don't.
Okay.
Some of this stuff was just applied, like like you don't have to close until you sell the house. That was only for the second edition of Augustus and Estates. It doesn't apply to third edition unless you want to adopt a policy to do that. And
I
that's
think
what,
some of this was, sorry, Lee, go ahead.
that's what Foots have in mind. In the second edition, they built that house and they haven't closed on it yet because, with the city, because they haven't closed with their buyer. But that was in their purchase agreement. But that doesn't apply to the third edition unless you guys want to adopt a policy that it does. So we just need to know what parameters you guys want us to work within. But right now I prepared purchase agreements for them that are the same as the one that they had in the second edition, but you guys have to approve that. Otherwise, yeah, their intention is, as I understand it, they're going to build 2 small houses. Jim said 1,200 square feet. I know Lee Foote, his son or something, is helping him, and he got called up by the guard or something, so they want to get these built before he has to go in the fall. So their plan is to start one right away and then another one when they finish the other one. That's what I know about.
Well, my opinion is that those are, I've had guys that are developers or people that build houses and they look at like the lots that we've done and they said, man, those are big lots, a lot bigger than most places. And the second thing is, if we're going to have big lots, we probably need to have a restriction as to how many square feet are in the home. And it's not saying anything wrong with anything that's gone on so far, but I think that would be a positive change for us getting a dollar value. And I have no problems with them going ahead and getting closing when they sell the house. That doesn't bother me. But I think that we've got, there's a real difference in the lots on one side of the street and the other one. And I just can't see selling 2 to one contractor. And I do think there needs to be a clause in it that says that they have got to have that house built in a certain number of months, and I would say 12 months. And you can always, if you have to give them an extension, you could, but the idea that somebody bought a lot and they can resell that lot at a profit and just sit on it for 2 or 3 years, that wasn't our intention. And the way it works out legally, they could do that if they purchase the lot, and I think we need to change that.
I would agree with you. I think in the past with the workforce housing, if I remember right, that had to be done within 2 years. So we kind of fell back on that for a lot of those projects. But I would agree. I think 12 months is a pretty short turnover. When you think about everything that needs to be done, I would be more in favor of maybe 18 months.
And 18 months would be fine. But I do think that we spent a lot of taxpayer dollars to develop that area. And I really think we have to be concerned about the size of the homes, guys.
I guess which way are you? You're saying a minimum size or a maximum size, or?
I think a minimum size. Because that's going to impact the revenue for the rest of the life of that home that the city gets. And I don't think it would keep anyone from building a house. I think when they got the house built, they would be happier and their buyers would be happier.
Is there a certain square footage that you had in mind, or?
I'd say 1,500 square feet at a minimum, 15 to 1,600. I mean, you gotta look and see what the other house sizes are up there. But
We got to keep in mind that some of this was for, workforce housing. And we got to keep it affordable for people. But maybe, I mean, if that's what you're worried about, I mean, we don't want to go back on this now, but, as far as lot sizes.
well, if we're gonna build 1,200 square foot homes, we could have a lot smaller lots.
Right.
What are some of those houses up there?
I don't know, you'd have to ask the developers what size they are, but, Matt Brin has a good sized house that they purchased, that he Beatty's built. I could let people pick out do their own sizes, but I think when we're selling lots and we put that many dollars into the lots, I don't think there's a big difference between 1,200 square feet and 1,500 square feet. And workforce housing, there's a lot of houses been sold up there that really aren't workforce housing. The lots have been sold. But because of that, I think we need to put at least a covenant of you build the house within, 18 months, the house is done. I think if we don't put any control on it at all, people will buy the lots and sell them to somebody else in 5 years, and they'll make a profit, and we'll sit there with the house that's a lot that's been undeveloped for a long time. We're going through that right now, actually.
I agree with the time frame. I think we need to have a time frame in there so that way we are guaranteed to get something back on that sooner than later. I mean,
Well, I would encourage the contractors to build a house that's going to be enjoyed for a long period of time. And most people, when they build a house, they wish they would have made it a little bit bigger.
is the square footage
Guys,
based on the finished part, or how do they base that on?
They usually go with the first floor.
Because I know the house that they're building right now is a finished basement too, so it's all, I don't know, that the foots are building.
Hey, it's 5:30. Should we start the meeting?
I don't know. We start over again.
yeah, I would start.
Okay, 5:30. We know everybody's here, so we're going to just say roll call. All the members are present. This has been posted legally. The due process, the public meeting laws are in the council chambers on the north wall. They're also online. The minutes of the April 8th meeting, regular council meeting in April, we need to take action on that. So I'd ask someone to go ahead and make a motion to approve since we discussed them during the work session.
Oh,
Second.
Good. Ross,
Aye.
Scott,
hi.
Larry,
Aye.
and Val. Now we'll move on to the April 20th, 2020 special meeting. Need a motion for approval?
I would so move.
Ross made the motion to approve. We have a second.
Second.
Val seconded. Val, you can vote first.
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Larry, and Larry, did you vote?
Aye.
And Scott.
Aye.
Then the special meeting, May 4th, 2020. We've got to have a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Val and Scott. And Larry,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Val.
Aye.
We looked at the 2020 Treasurer's Report. We didn't see any problems with that, so we'd entertain a motion to approve that.
Make a motion to approve the 2020 Treasurer's Report.
Thanks, Scott.
Second.
April.
Do we have a second?
Val seconded it.
Okay. And then we'll start out with Ross,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Val,
Aye.
and Larry. So we've got the Treasurer's Report approved, is that right? We're now down to the pay request for South Main paving. Is that, I think I'm in the right spot.
Yeah. Make a motion
Pay
to
request
approve.
number one, South Main, they've paved the, we talked about it, we don't know, we talked about it again, they're making good progress there. I'm a little bit concerned with the angle of the approach of Dave and Kim's first driveway to the street. It's gonna be rather steep there for about 6 or 10 feet, it looks like. The other approach, where they have the loop around, that looks like it fits in perfectly, but the cul-de-sac's not done yet, so I might be surprised.
Rod's
we need
on
some-
call if you want him to talk.
Who is?
Rod?
Okay. Rod, you want to talk about that project? Good.
Yeah, hey guys, it's good to see your face. It's been a while. But yeah, the South Main project's moving along nicely. All the mainline paving's in. They connected up to the existing paving with the final pour today. So they have the radius, basically the cul-de-sac area, and then the little section of 14th Street to get back in, as well as the inlet tops. But the project's moving along nicely. Contractors doing a good job. So we'd recommend approval of this pay request.
And I was going to ask you, it looks like the drainage tube from the retention pond and it's running to the east now. Looks like that was really, it was good that we had that put in, I think. Good decision.
Yeah,
Looks
all
like
that
it's
pipe's
working out.
been put in also. Yep, should be working well.
All right. So any questions by the council for Rod? If not, we'd entertain a motion to approve that pay request.
So moved.
Second.
So Val made the motion to approve and Scott seconded that. Ross,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Val,
Aye.
and Scott.
Aye.
I got everybody. So the South Main pay request is approved. The action on the setting of water rates, we discussed this and there was a lot of thought to tabling this until the next meeting. And is that what you want to do, folks?
You want to get, Craig is on if you guys want to get his input.
That'd be good. Yeah, we could talk to Craig.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the invitation to be here. I guess before we go through the rates, just a quick update on the funding package. As you're aware, the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund has kind of moved a little faster. I have reached out to the USDA Rural Development Group, and they are going through their review. Both of these agencies will have water rates as part of the requirement of both of those funding sources. And so the purpose for the public hearing that is scheduled for the June meeting, water rates will be discussed there as what those impacts will be. My understanding for today is to have a discussion about doing interim rates along the way. I would point you to the fact sheet that I provided at the April 8th meeting that showed potential impacts to rates from the project based on where we stand today. And there are obviously some other discussions and decisions that will need to be made as far as different allocations between rate classes. But right now, the rates are set up as inside city limits and outside of city limits, and only 0.5% of those that are outside of city limits fall into that designation. And so I guess as we move forward, and the decision doesn't need to be made today, will be to adjust those classes to include more of a residential, commercial, and industrial rate. But right now, your monthly average fee is $15.50 at $1.75 per thousand. And I know that there are some rate tables that have been circulated out there that show that the average for cities of Wakefield size or within the area, I think there's a 2019 review, show that the average is more in the $20 to $22 for the monthly average fee, and a price per thousand is slightly over $2. And so as you're looking to make some incremental steps, that is probably a good place to start. And then as funding and other discussions regarding how to allocate some of the costs for the project to those that use more of the water could be discussed.
Thank you. So we don't have to do anything with the rates tonight, Craig, is that correct?
You don't have to do something with the rates, but again, having an idea. So for example, let's say the project takes 2 years to do or 3 years to do, then you would want to look and say, okay, do we want to split that up over 2 steps, 4 steps? Really, that's up to you to decide how you want to ease folks into it. The other part is you won't have to pay on the project until the project is complete. And so this would be a chance for you to start putting some money in the bank to be able to help pay for that along the way. So really that's a decision that you as a council need to make as to when you want to start adjusting those rates, getting them closer to where we anticipate them being. So starting sooner is probably recommended, though it wouldn't necessarily need to be tonight.
We did this with the water tower project, and we had 2 steps, and we waited until the fall because the water usage would be down, so it wouldn't hit them quite so hard immediately as far as the usage table.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't raised our minimum rate on that for a long time. It's been $1.75 for a long time. And
yep.
So we could probably raise that, but that doesn't generate as much revenue as raising the per thousand.
Correct. It looks like the last time rates were adjusted was April 20th of 2015. So just over 5 years.
Right. So I think the council, you want to still think we should table this and have more time for discussion?
Yeah, I think we need to table Paul, because, hey, Craig, do you think in 30 days that we'd have some more closer figures of what this project's going to cost us, for getting funds for it and overall costs?
So right now, the fact sheet that I put together included our anticipated costs. So to answer your question, we won't be doing another estimate between now and 30 days. The fact sheet put together the consideration of using $1 million from city funds and 20% SRF loan forgiveness, which is a potential. And so that actually we did get notification that if the city is able to move on completing the required funding steps or preliminary funding steps before the end of June, then that 20% forgiveness will be a reality. And so what that looks like is the monthly use fee increase is in the range of $32 to $35 per user, but that does not include an additional allocation to industrial use. So for example, Michael Foods, they use approximately 60% of the water. And so if the rate is adjusted so that they're paying 60% of that rate increase, then those numbers will change, right? They'll reduce by 60% or however the council chooses to allocate those. So I'm not going to have better numbers until that allocation is discussed and quantified a little bit more.
Well, when you talked originally about the whole project, you mentioned that in some communities, the industry, the largest user, will help you fund your project. that was one of the sources of funding. It's either in the notebook that you gave us or it was something that was said by someone. So here,
Yes.
you think we should rate to the industry and then, so, I mean, I don't understand, I guess.
So there are two ways to do that, and a lot of it depends on the interest of the industry. So what you're talking about is more of a public-private partnership.
Right.
The other way to do that would be to adjust the rates, again, by having an industrial rate class and a commercial rate class. Then you could allocate those funds accordingly. So a lot of it is based on the city's discussion with the industry as to how they would like to proceed.
Okay. And I was curious. Go ahead, Val.
That hasn't happened yet, has it, Paul or Jim? Have we talked to anybody at MFI?
I haven't.
No. I don't know
Okay.
what's going on now.
Okay.
I was curious, Craig, too, what you think of the Site 4.
Site 4, it looks like obviously there's more room. Which is a benefit. It's right next to the transmission line, which is also a benefit. It's also close to the sewer. The sewer could be a blessing and a curse. And I say that in quotations, where we're not able to build close to the sewer. And since it splits the lot, we'll just have to design around that. And so otherwise, I think we can make that site to work. We'll have to review a couple things as far as different classifications of water storage, which requires a greater separation from a sewer. So we'll have to take a look at the survey once that's done, but it seems like it would be an advantageous location to site the facility.
And there are a couple of open waterways there. What would your advice be on that, to try to get those where we can go ahead and put, some type of a system in that we can cover over and the water will go underneath and we won't be driving through it?
Yeah, that'll be part of the site development, and I'd prefer to see the survey before I make any of those recommendations.
Okay,
But
so you haven't recommended any of the sites as the preferable site?
No, looking at the prices, obviously the farther you are away from the existing water and sewer lines, the more the cost will increase, but those costs are pretty close. And so I think all of them could be made to work. And I think this Site 4 could be made to work as well. But without any additional information, that's all that I'm able to answer at this time.
Okay, and Site 4, we're talking about maybe purchasing almost an acre of ground, which would also give us a little bit more space for other activities down there as far as traffic movement and movement of equipment that the city owns. All right. Any other questions for Craig?
I just have one. Larry, did I answer your question that you asked?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Got the information here.
Okay.
So are we still considering 4 sites or are we considering 3 sites?
Is that a question for me?
You or Jim, I guess, because the other site we were looking at, we couldn't obtain the property, enough of the property.
Okay.
Is my understanding.
The report.
That's just. Go ahead.
The report recommended site number 2. Site number 4 is probably equally as advantageous. So I would say site number 1, just to reiterate, would be having to demolish a building to make that work. But I think there are some limits to that location. It's pinched in and there are some facilities in the way. Site 3 would displace the grass pile and you'd have to drive around it. So I think, and site 2 has its limits too, right? It's smaller. You would need some easements to get piping and access. So I think site 4 is actually, it helps alleviates the cons of the other facilities or the other sites.
Okay.
So
That's good information. Thank you.
mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Craig? Jim, do you have anything to add?
No, I do agree with with Site 4. We've looked at it. The survey should be done maybe tomorrow or Friday at the latest, so I'll get that to you. There is a sewer main runs through that property all the way out to the 40 acres, so that's the line he's talking about.
Okay, and I guess, you know, the things that we have to be concerned about with the new site would be, where would the overhead doors have to be with any of those? Are they in the back of the building to get the mechanical things? If you have to make a change of a filter, is that where you have a garage door, actually an overhead door?
Mm-hmm. So again, the orientation of the building can be adjusted, so we can rotate it on the site. We can adjust those doors. I would anticipate those doors would either be on the north or the west side of the building. But again, we'll have to take a look at where it is in relation to that 12-inch sewer line. The other thing is, since the city owns the land immediately to the north, maybe there's some discussion about having that building sprawl a little over that property line, since the city owns both of those. So we can make that adjustment, but the goal will be to make sure so that access is provided by vehicles that would service that, both chemical trucks, construction vehicles, things of that nature.
Okay, thank you. And Craig, I was going to ask, the article in the Omaha World Herald, Val had read that, and I had seen that about the water with contamination from nitrates. And then also one of the comments made by one of the either mayors or city managers thought that there's going to be a time when Nebraska goes to area water systems. Do you see that happening anytime in the near future?
It is happening around, especially with nitrates. Again, right as of now, the city doesn't have to worry about nitrates and hasn't since the water plant has been installed or before. Things can change, right? But as of right now, that's not a concern. Since nitrates are a primary contaminant, and that was the onus of the article, there are some smaller communities that are banding together because it is cheaper for them to supply water to each other than to go out and treat on their own. I'm familiar with one of those, and those are funded projects, and there are different funding arrangements when you combine water systems like that to serve a larger population. So again, it serves a couple different purposes, right? You have more of a population to help shoulder the financial burden of the project, and then you're also utilizing those taxpayer funds in a manner that is more efficient. So there are regional water systems in northeastern Nebraska, so it's not atypical to see that. That could be something that the city has approached maybe in the future to help partner with something like that. But currently that's not on the table, but that could be something that the city is asked to do at a future time.
And I've got one more question. That was one of our councilmen, Ross Hanson, asked a question of Jim, what was our wellhead protection area? And Jim sent us a graph that looks like it's about 1,000, a circular 1,000 feet. Is that what it is? And is that adequate, or can we do anything to improve that?
So the wellhead protection area is kind of an interesting discussion, and I'll try to keep it short. Those maps are provided for all of the communities in Nebraska by the Department of Environment and Energy. And they provide kind of a 20-year travel time, and then they have a recommendation as to what those areas should be. Now, that's the extent of their involvement. They make that recommendation to a municipality, and then it's up to the municipality to define the enforcement, if you will. So it's more than just putting those signs out. It's what do you do when someone violates that, or being vigilant and making sure wells aren't going in immediately adjacent to it. So again, it's a partnership where they provide the town a service, but then it's up to you to enforce and monitor those or expand them if you wish. For the most part, those are set up on a section line or square mile basis. And so if the city had a desire to expand those, I would think that's within your ability to do so.
So do you think we should, being diligent, we should try to expand it? Being proactive is trying to prevent nitrates?
Is there a concern that you have that would where you would want to expand that? I guess I know that's answering a question with a question, but it really, the answer to your question is it depends.
Well, there was one community that just put a lot of money into their water system, and their nitrate level was under the allowable amount by quite a bit. And the next year it was close to the, 5 or 10%, where you have to take some action on it.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the communities in that same newspaper article that the nitrate level had been no problem, and then all of a sudden it was a big problem, getting close to being a serious problem.
Now, when they made that improvement, was it a new well that they put in?
I think they put a new well in, yeah. I think so, I'm not sure.
So right now, I haven't looked at your wellhead protection area, so I need to look at the time of travel. But if you haven't had a problem recently and things haven't changed, then I don't know that there's a big reason to make a change unless you would like to provide more of a buffer. But with this project, since we're not adding wells and there's not any land change or land use change around these areas, then in theory, it should be status quo.
And we can move a wellhead protection area by council action. We could increase the size up to our jurisdiction.
I believe so, but that's probably something to run by council as well to make sure they are in agreement.
Okay, hey, I appreciate the answers, Craig.
The other thing is it depends on where your enforcement is, whether it's in your zoning code or wherever those requirements are. So you'll just have to look at how the city has set that up as an enforceable action.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions for Craig?
I do have a question probably for Jim. How do we monitor our wellhead? Is it being done?
Yes. Yeah, we're in contact with the NRD. The NRD does give us a notification if there's any irrigation wells or anything like that going into our area or getting close to us. So it is monitored. Like you said, you can change it or enlarge it if you wish. Right now, I don't see anybody infringing on us. NRD is really proactive on making sure that farmers don't just stick an irrigation well in anywhere they want to. So,
Is there, I mean, as far as the wellhead protection goes, I mean, is there anything as far as what goes onto these adjacent fields too, whether it's fertilizer, spray, stuff like that? I mean, is that part of that as well, or is it just the local wells that we're looking at? We talk about nitrates and runoff and things like that.
I think you could get as technical as you want to with it right now. Essentially, they are monitoring and watching chemigation and new or modified irrigation wells. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
Yep.
Any other questions for Craig or for Jim on this water rate debate and the discussion of our new water filter system? If not, then I think we can table that and move on. Let's see. The next thing we've got is the waiving the third reading. We've done one reading. This will be the second reading of park board membership. And we need a motion and a second to waive the third reading.
I'll make a
So
motion.
moved.
Second.
So Val made the motion to waive the third reading and Scott seconded that. Larry?
Aye.
Ross?
Aye.
Val?
Aye.
And Scott?
Aye.
Well, then we need to go ahead and, do we have, Lee, I'm going to ask you this question. Do we still have to go back and vote on this again then? To pass it?
You can move to pass now. That's where you're at. So
Okay, so we need a motion to move to pass.
Make a motion to move to pass
Scott made the motion. Do we have a second?
2020.
Second.
Okay. And we'll start out with Ross,
Aye.
Val,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
and Larry.
Aye.
Okay, and the park board members are Scott Hansen, our representative from the city council, Teresa Soderberg, and Mike Clay. And those will be the 3 members of the park board. And they have done a lot of work. They've got a staff set up for the pool, but we've got to make some really tough decisions either tonight or soon as far as the activities of the park are concerned. So that's coming up later on. All right, thank you. The next ordinance is the resolution that JEO has put together for us for the Lower Elkhorn Natural Resource District hazard mitigation plan. This law was passed in I don't know if it was 2020 or 2000, but it was passed, and now we've got to have a resolution on file, I believe. So that's what you've read through this. If you had a chance, it's kind of about an 8-page thing. But it's just saying that we have a plan, and the plan was actually put together by JEO Engineering, I believe, for the Lower Elkhorn NRD. We'll be part of it.
Paul, the NRD, or they proposed a resolution and we redid it. And I think to match, we do this every 2 or 3 years. And
I
so,
sent you a sample that said, and so you can.
yeah, the sample we're not using. There's
you're not using their sample?
well, as a kind of a guide, but we reworked it. And
So we do have a resolution ready.
What's that?
Can you read that, Lee? Because I don't think I have it, do I?
Well, I think Zach put it out, but it's basically the same. It's a resolution to adopt the Lower Elkhorn Natural Resources District Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan update. And it says that the city resolves to adopt the Lower Elkhorn NRD Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan update in its entirety. The city requests approval of the plan by the National Emergency Management Association and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and the city clerk is directed to make available information to access the hazard mitigation plan for public inspection and review. You just need a motion. Somebody needs to introduce and move for passage.
Thanks, Lee. Can someone introduce and move to pass that resolution?
I'll introduce resolution 6-2020 and move for its final passage.
Second.
Okay. All right, Val,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
thank you, and Scott.
Aye.
Good. And now we've got action on South Main lot purchase deferral. And I think this is where we want to encourage the builder, and he makes a down payment and then pays that when the lot is sold. Is that right, Lee?
Yes, and I think I saw where Foots joined the meeting, Paul, so
Okay.
them comment.
Is Lee on?
Yeah, we're on.
Okay, good. You've got one nice home built.
Yeah, we're gaining.
I've voiced my concern to the council on the 2 lots, in the fact that on the west side of the street, the lots are pretty level and you can build whatever style house you want. But the lots on the east side, I don't know if you've looked at them, but they really drop off.
Yeah.
I was concerned with that we won't have any lots available for anybody else who wants to build a ranch style home. And I don't know if anybody else is interested, but that was my concern. And then I just mentioned that to the council. The other concern we had is, we made those lots maybe too big, according to what some people are telling us. But I told the council that we'd like to have something with a, like maybe a standard minimum amount of square footage in the house.
Okay, and what size were you thinking then on that, Paul?
Well, I don't have any idea, Lee. 1,500, is that too much? I mean,
On those particular lots, the first one that's just south of Tim and Leslie's, that's it's 93 foot wide and 117 foot deep, and with a 40-foot setback from the street, you know, that limits it. Basically, the house that I have drawn up is 1,200 square feet with a single car garage, and it only leaves about 22 feet, I believe, all the way around it to the property lines. That's pretty limited as far as handling water issues and stuff.
So is that a smaller lot than the one where you built your most recent home?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
I have the lot. Sorry, guys. I have the 12th Street lot sizes here. They're about 7,000 feet smaller than the ones on South Main. So pretty substantial size decrease.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes a big difference, and they're not as big a lots.
Right, right.
What do you think, Lee, about what kind of homes can they build on the other side of the street?
Basically stuff with a walkout basement, you know.
You almost have to have a walkout basement.
Yeah, the problems that I see with that is there's for a walkout basement on those lots, there's a lot of money goes into retaining walls and dealing with the water issues that are going to follow, you know, going down that back of that hill there on the east side.
Yeah, and I was thinking, you know, I thought maybe you were going to build one house and just hold on to the other lot, but someone said that you're planning on building two houses at the same time.
Well, what I'd like to do is get one. My goal would be to get one framed and closed in, obviously, you know, and then. Well, no, I take that back. I guess right now the first lot that we're looking at would be the primary objective. The second one was the cost of the lots were reasonable, and we had thought about just obtaining another lot to do another build
within 6 months.
with, you know, within that time frame.
What we're trying to do is speed up our process.
Right. You know, we've got one lot on the other street where we don't have a house built yet, and we didn't have anything in our agreements that said they have to build a house within a certain period of time. So we discussed trying to have the house done within 18 months of the time that you purchased the lot. And is that something that causes you any problem?
No, because the house that we're doing right now, we actually just basically broke ground on it. The first part of September, somewhere middle of September, and we're looking at completion, you know, by July or June 1st. If everything goes good, we'll close on it. So on this other house is a little smaller,
Summertime.
and I'm gonna have the weather on my side, so I'm thinking this is maybe a 6-month build or less, if possible.
Okay. Yeah, those got backgrounds are good.
Is this a spec home, Lee, or do you have this? Are you building
No,
this for sale?
this is a spec home again.
Okay.
Now, the other house that we're getting ready to close on, I don't know if you know this, it's a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. Yes, it's a little smaller, but the living room is somewhere in the neighborhood of 17.9 by 16. So it is a smaller footprint, but there's a lot in that little house up there. And this house is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with 2 covered porches and a 30-foot deep single-car garage.
And you'd have a nice basement in there also, like the other one?
Yeah.
Full basement with a storm shelter.
Yeah.
With the storm shelter, yeah.
It says storage on here.
A lot of questions. I guess the only concern that I have then is we're going to be short on lots as far as for somebody that wants to build a ranch style house. We're going to have lots available for someone that wants to build a walkout basement, but we're aware of the fact that the retaining wall on that hillside adds to the expense of the house without probably increasing the value of the house. So we know we've got some nice lots there, and we don't know what we're going to do to motivate people to put some walkout. You know, I don't know what we can do, but
Well, I've kind of looked at it, and with the 40-foot setback from the back of the curb, basically when the hill starts to fall, you know, if you go 40 foot deep on your house or even 35 foot deep, it puts you right on the edge of that. So you basically walking out your back door, you're going to be going right down the hill. So there's either going to be a deck out over top of the, you know, the walkout basement. And from my standpoint, to do a spec house, I can't put that kind of money into a build.
No,
for a
I
spec
understand
house.
that. Yeah.
If I had a customer that was interested in building that type of house, it wouldn't really bother me to build there. You know, if I had a customer that was looking to build that style house.
If you want to build a house, you just build it for him.
Yes.
You weren't
But to do it as a
speculating.
spec house, that's kind of a, you know, there's a lot of money tied up in that, and then it's still a spec house, you know.
It wouldn't be a middle income house.
Yeah, I understand. So
Lee,
would you be opposed if we put in the agreement that we would like to have you complete the house in 18 months?
Oh, I'm not opposed to that at all. I mean, I think we were told on the last one 12 months, and we beat that. So
yeah,
I'm not too worried about it.
Well, I'll let the council ask questions, and thank you for the answers. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Lee, would you be opposed to purchasing one lot right now, completing the house, and then if there's other lots available, moving on?
No, and that's fine. Like I said, if they were available, we were just going to talk to you about it. And if you want to just do one lot at a time, I'm okay with that.
You know, we obviously want the lots to get bought and built on. We all, you know, like the mayor said, we also don't want them to get bought up and then other people don't have chances to build if you're going to hold on to them for a while.
Sure. No, it's understandable. One of my concerns with those lots on the west side was the fact that they're a narrower lot. They're only 90 foot wide, or 93 foot wide. I'm sorry, but you know, to do two smaller homes on the first two lots was kind of what I had envisioned there, and then possibly, I don't know if a purchase of both lots to be one property would be an option on that fourth one. You know, then you could build a little bigger style house.
Yeah, that's happened with some of the property that we've developed, where they've purchased two lots and for one house.
Yeah.
Would you be
Yeah, I think we've been open to that, but I don't know if we still are or not. I can't read the minds of those other
Sure.
four people involved. So
would you be open to doing an option on the second lot? So that if a buyer became available and we weren't ready, we'd have the first right to refuse it. You know, take it and move on it, or somebody else gets it at that point, not delayed.
I would have to defer to the council members. You know, I think you did a really nice job on the lot that you bought. You got a nice house there, and you have an interested buyer, so that's really good. And I'll kind of be quiet for a while and listen to what Val and Larry and Scott and Russ have to say.
So you're saying on that second lot, you would have your name in on it unless if somebody else wanted to buy it, you would let it go then? Is that kind of what you?
If we weren't ready to build.
Sure.
Because weather, you know, we know that weather can delay things. A couple years ago, we had a summer where it rained every week. I mean, that would delay us. That's something we can't control. However, what we're trying to do is speed up our process. We'd like to start the next one about September, which really moves this one quickly. But this is something he's already done. It's something that we've set up to move pretty quickly. And that's why we'd like to have that second lot kind of ready to go.
I don't have a problem with it. I think I know the person that bought your house. I work with them, and she's overly happy with it. I think you guys do a great job, and hopefully keep on working with you guys. And if you're willing to do that, I'm okay with it.
If somebody speaks up and they're ready to build and they want it, you know, there's other lots. We're not opposed to that at all. We're just trying to set ourselves up to put it out quickly.
Sure.
What it does is it allows us to have another house designed for the next lot, you know, so it's ready to go.
I can't really buy a house without the lots because I need to know the measurements.
Yep.
it just simplifies that part of it for us and helps us keep moving. Because I'd like to see some, obviously, I mean, that's your goal, is to put houses up there on the hill. And I'd really like to see I'd like to see them go in fairly quick, you know, just to keep the project moving. I mean, you spent a lot of money, you know, getting things to go up there. It'd be nice to see it getting utilized.
Right. We're real satisfied on that block that we have, except we got one empty lot still. So you know what our situation is there, I think.
We have a nice 1,700 square foot ranch that we have designed up just in case that came up for sale, but it didn't work out that we could buy it. So we were thinking on the same lines you were in that regards, Paul.
Well, we don't know what's going to happen to that lot, but I think it's a July 15th deadline. Is that right, Lee?
Yes. Yeah, I think so, Paul.
Okay. So anyway, I'll let the council, if you have no more questions, you guys could decide what you want to do here.
Hey, I got some questions, Paul.
Okay.
Hey, Jim, how many lots are available up there yet?
South Main project, you have 7 lots.
Okay, can you walk us through these lots? I got a paper here, I'm looking at them.
Okay, the
The 7th lot is
Lot
one you guys were gonna hold back.
Lot 3.
Correct.
3 is that?
Yes.
Okay, which lot is the Lee interested, Lee Foot?
1 and 2, I believe.
Yes.
2?
Yes.
Okay, 3's open.
Yes, so is 4 and 5.
But 3 is the one you talked about keeping open in case you wanted a road to go west there, Larry.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point, Zach. Thanks.
And over on the other side, 10 is where White's at, and 9 and 10, right?
Yeah, but you got 2 lots above that to the north.
12 and 11, right?
Correct.
Those are open yet.
That's correct.
Okay, so Lee, which lot did you want first?
The
One or
lot
two?
1. Lot 1.
Lot.
Right next to Tim and
I
Love.
guess
Yes.
my opinion is you get your house built on lot 1, but we got to keep lot 2 available if somebody else comes tomorrow or the next day.
And that's fine, Larry. Like I said, I'm fine doing one lot at a time. I would like to have an option to have my name in a hat for it first, if it's still available. But like I said, if somebody else comes in that's ready to build on it, then yeah, by all means. If we're not ready,
I think that's fair enough. What do you think, Larry?
Yeah, we just can't reserve it for him. It's still available, but we know his wishes. You'd like to have it, but
He's got first option. He would have.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. I do have one question for Jim. Is it between lots 3 and 4 where they buried the power going to the transformer?
That's correct.
Okay. So that keeps those lots a little bit smaller there too. Because my first thought was lots 3 and 4, purchasing them as one and try and make one lot out of them, but we can't obviously build across the power line.
There's a utility easement there.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Val and Russ, Russ, you have anything else? And Val?
I just had a question. I don't have a map in front of me. But if we do end up reserving lot 3 for a street, I can't remember. I don't think that uses up the entire lot. So does that add to lot 2?
That'd be nice.
Yeah, you're gonna have to make that decision, I think, before you sell that lot to him, if you're gonna change that and put a street in there and figure out what you're gonna do with the extra footage.
Yeah, and I don't have a visual in front of me of how much of that lot would be utilized by the street.
If you extended
Could widen the lot.
30 foot. Roughly 30 foot.
Okay, so that'd make it 120 foot wide instead of 90. Because I believe they're 93 up for all. Weren't they all about the same?
They're all 93s.
Yeah. If you extend 14th Street west, you only affect lot 3. You split lot 3. It doesn't affect lot 4.
That'd be an extra 45 feet, yeah.
That'd be nice.
And that would be a nice lot to build a bigger home on then.
Oh, there's a map.
You got Ross.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and we do have a house design that will fit on a lot that size, or the one west of the one that we just built.
Is that the 1700 one that you were talking about? 1700?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I don't know, do we need a motion to sell Lee if he's interested in lot 1, and then a first option on the lot 2? Or Lee, are you ready to do that, or do we have to put our stipulation there about the 18 months? And
No, I'm not. I'm really not concerned about getting it done in less than 18 months. I mean, I mean, I'm fine with it with a 12-month on this one. It's not a problem.
Okay.
We can just put that in the purchase agreement. What did you agree on per square footage? Is there 1,200?
I think when we found out the lots are smaller, I think it's a little bit of a deal where we just have to trust that they're going to build a nice home there. I thought the lots were the same size. I wasn't paying attention, I guess. I thought they were the same size as the other lots.
So we can just put it in the resolution that they got to build within 18 months, the 1,200 square foot if you want. And also the question about deferring closing until they sell the house, like if you want that included in there. Like you did with their other house in the second edition.
Well, to me, that would help all the builders. And
then what I think is we come back with a resolution, maybe next meeting, to apply those conditions to all the lots. But for tonight, you could just say that's the terms of the sale and approve a purchase agreement on that basis.
Okay, so we're on number 10.
Yeah.
Passage of Resolution 7/2020 approving sale of city-owned real estate.
But we're only talking lot 1 and the option on lot 2, right?
Correct.
Yep.
Right. And is that all right with you guys, Lee?
Yes,
you guys are okay?
absolutely.
Okay, then if there's no more discussion, we could entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I suppose we have to introduce the resolution.
Introduce resolution 7/2020.
Yeah, it's there. As proposed, it has both lots, so we just strike lot 2.
Okay.
So it's just lot 1.
Okay, so we've got, Scott has introduced and resolution 7/2020. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And Ross and Val both seconded it. Ross was probably first. And this is to sell city-owned real estate to the Foots. And we're ready to vote. So Larry?
Aye.
Ross?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
And Val? Thank
Aye.
you. All right. Anything else on the lot sale?
No.
If not, we can move on. Thank you all. Appreciate it. The
Thanks,
next
Steve.
thing on the order of business is the WAPA. I think it's Western Area Power Association or something like that. And you've read all about that in your packet. Yes.
I'm sorry, we wanted to let you guys know, the committee here, anyone that wants to walk through the spec house we're finishing up before we close on it, come on up. We invite you
Yes,
all
I'd
to
love
come
to.
through and see the build.
I'll be there. Thank you.
Good, good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
See you guys.
So that WAPA plan, I think you guys have looked at it. Do you have any questions about it? And Jim can tell us all about it probably.
Well, I don't know if I can tell you all about it, but the reason we have to pass a resolution is much like the hazard mitigation plan. It becomes a public document, it has to be available to the public. So what we've done here is compiled a lot of information about our electric use, our purchases, our energy uses and savings, and generation as well. Some other ideas that they require us to talk about converting street lights, water heaters, heat pumps, that type of stuff, as well as what's our predictable energy use into the future. So it's just basically all about electricity, about you look backwards a little bit, you look currently at the year, and you project at least 5 years out what our electric uses are going to be. That's it in a nutshell.
Tell me what WAPA stands for. Western Area Power Association, is that right?
Administration, yes.
Administration, okay.
Yeah,
And
this is the
every
power.
town in the country is in one of these, is that right?
This is a power that comes from water, from hydro dams. It's the best and cheapest energy you can get. So.
Okay. All right. Any questions of Jim or anyone else that could answer? I don't really have too much information on this. I must have forgotten what I read, or I didn't read it. Scott or Larry or Val or Ross?
Nope.
So do you want to pass this? It's Resolution 8, 2020, if someone wants to introduce and move to pass.
I will introduce Resolution 8, 2020, approving the Integrated Resource Plan with WAPA and move to pass.
Okay, thank you, Val. We need a second.
Second it.
Thank you. So we've got a motion that was made by Val and seconded it by Ross, and to approve the WAPA plan. And we can go ahead and start with Scott.
Aye.
Val?
Aye.
Larry? Aye. And Ross?
Aye.
Thank you. Now, number 12 is going to be probably the one that will take us quite a bit of time, and that is, and I'm going to defer to Ross on this, and Larry, who we got the guy that answers calls for people that are sick, and we got the guy that helps people that are sick. So COVID-19 response measures, and we don't have to make all of our decisions tonight, but we do need to talk about it. And one of the things that we came up with just visiting, maybe we could open the library to groups of 10. Do you guys feel like that's okay?
Where are we at right now? Are they still completely closed?
Completely closed. And I was going to call Val today, and I didn't get around to it.
They're doing curbside pickup.
Elizabeth?
The library is doing curbside pickup, so anytime you call them, they've been doing a really good job with it, because I know my kids have gone over there.
So we can stay with what we're doing right now?
She asked me to pass along to you guys if they would like to open under the 10-person limit, but they would defer final decisions to you guys.
Okay.
The library would like to open with a 10-person limit, and they feel comfortable and safe doing that.
With mask mandatory, yes.
Mask mandatory. So we'll maybe make that decision tonight. We'll see what the council thinks. Something else that a lot of communities are doing is making mask mandatory for everybody on staff. And I know that I'm concerned. I don't know. I don't know if it's necessary or not, but I'm gonna ask Ross if he thinks it is.
On staff, but what do you mean on staff? City office staff or?
City office and all city employees.
Well, the guys that work outside, I really don't think that, as long as they're maintaining social distancing, there's really no reason for them to, be out on a lawnmower wearing a mask or anything like that. Maybe you could say with certain activities, if they're in an enclosed space or something like that, it'd be a good idea to wear a mask.
So if they're at break, for example, social
They
distance.
take a break.
Yeah, because when they're all together for a break, they're closer than 6 feet. Well, unless it's changed.
Where do they take
I
break
don't know
at?
if they are or not, but I just think what we want to do is make sure that our employees are as safe as we can possibly make them. And so Ross thinks if you're out in the open, you don't need a mask, but if you're in an enclosed space, you need to keep your social distance, and I'm sure you have to keep your social distance out in the streets and in all work areas as well. But I just tried to figure out if we can give them a little bit of a directive as to what we think is going to keep them safe. So any other thoughts on that, Ross?
What does the city office staff think? I mean, Zach, what do you think? You guys are in kind of tight quarters.
As
Are you
far as
still
the opening,
what?
as far as masks or opening,
Both.
Nikki was kind of thinking go through May before we unlock the door. If someone has business, we let them in, and then everyone masks up at that point. But when it's just us in here, we haven't been.
So you don't wear a mask in the office? You don't feel you need to?
I don't
Whenever I
need
come-
to.
Yeah, when I come in, he puts his mask on.
Yeah, they've had their mask on when I come in too.
Yeah, if we have guests, you guys come and see us or whatever, then we put them on.
Okay. Ross, what do you think?
I think that's reasonable. If the three of you are going to be in the office throughout the day together, day in and day out, I don't know how much a mask is honestly going to do for you.
Okay.
I guess my opinion of everything, the governor is kind of pushing things a little bit. When you look at the map and look at our location, there's hotspots all around us everywhere except to the north, basically, and northwest. And then, we've got Michael Foods as well, so there's potential. I just think that we should be a little more vigilant than maybe some of these other rural communities as far as opening things back up and taking precautions.
And I kind of feel for our governor because the mayor, when the mayors get to talk to the governor does a good job of letting us talk to him on Wednesdays and ask questions, but he's getting so much pressure from mayors to open. I mean, when do we get to open our pool? When do we get to open the bars? When do we get to, open the softball fields, the playgrounds? And he is trying, I think, to do a really good job, but sometimes he's getting more pressure to open it than to keep it closed, and kind of puts him in a tough situation. But if you look at the president's opening requirements, Nebraska doesn't meet the requirement of having our number of cases going down, trending down. So it concerns me too, that I think we need to err on the side of caution, but that's just my personal feelings. But we're going to get questions about the pool. We're going to get questions about the softball, baseball, tournaments. The Legion's already canceled their Memorial Day service. I just don't know what all we can talk about and decide, but I think we need to get together soon and make some decisions. To me, it doesn't make much sense to play baseball and softball if the pool's closed. The pool's open. It doesn't make much sense not to have the baseball and softball, but the safest thing would be to close them all. But park, I'd like to see it open, but playgrounds cleaned thoroughly and then nicely roped off where people they've got a tape there that says they aren't supposed to use it. And I want to know how you guys feel about that. And Larry, I'd like to have your opinion. And I know you and Ross are the two guys that are out there all the time. And if I get sick, Ross will have to take care of me. So I want to know what his opinion is.
Scott, have you guys talked as youth rec as far as what you're thinking for baseball?
We have not. We set a meeting for this coming Monday night, determine what. But I was gonna kind of hopefully get your guys' input on that, whether we should look at moving on or look at closing the season. From the feedback that I've gotten, I kind of sent stuff out to all the kids, the parents. I mean, it seems like most of them are for it. I don't foresee us being able to hold any kind of tournament. I don't know how in the world that would happen. It would just be games. But then again, I was really looking to get you guys' input on that. I don't think the little kids should be anywhere. I think once you let them out, they're going to be out hugging each other, everything. I mean, I don't know. What's your input on that? I guess my other thing with it is kind of have to look at their, the mental states too. They read a mental behavior too, or is there anything going on there? I don't know. Would this help with stuff? I have no clue.
Yeah, I've had that brought up to me too, the mental state of the kids as far as losing out on their track and seasons, and that some of them lost out on spring baseball and stuff. But I don't know. I would put personal safety above their mental outlook. They're pretty resilient when they're kids that age. But like the wood bat tournament, you can have the tournament. You're going to bring a lot of people to town.
Yeah.
You're only going to lose money because the only people that can come are the immediate family members. You can't sell concessions. You won't be able to take any gate because you'd be exchanging. I don't know how you could. You probably could raise your entry fees, but just bringing so many people in from out of town, I don't think it makes sense unless we thought we had the virus under control. I don't think any of us think that we've got it under control and wiped out. That's probably going to happen when we get a vaccine. But like Ross says, we're close to Dakota County, and Dakota County's got one of the highest rates of infection in the country, and we're not going to avoid that. It's like the pool. What happens if everything's closed in Dakota County and all of a sudden they want to give their kids a holiday and come to Wakefield and get in the pool? I mean, it's just tough.
It is. I do know Emerson canceled all their summer rec activities. When we met with the league, Homer was also really high on canceling their summer rec activities. Obviously, they're in a big hot spot right now, up towards Dakota City, and we're close to. So I don't know. I hoping to get your guys' input and see what you guys are thinking from that.
Well, we all want to. I mean, everybody wants us to play. Everybody wants us to swim. Everybody wants us to use everything in town. But at the same time, if you listen to the people that have been there on the front line, like even Michelle Simpson had that post. I don't know if you saw it, where she said, "Quit complaining and stay home." Pretty emphatically. And we're not. We haven't been there yet, but we're probably trending in that direction, even if we keep things the way they are.
That's the scary thing. Hopefully, we never see it, but hopefully Michael Foods doesn't get to that point. But man, if it does, it could be scary for the town, and that's scary for everybody. So
yeah, exactly. So I think we have to give it a lot of thought, and I think what I'd like to do is I think we could make a decision on what we think we need to do with our workers. We could make a decision upon what we think we could do with the library. And what I would like to do is contact all the members of our health board, which I've done. I've talked to Donovan on a pretty regular basis. Ross lets me talk to him. And Jim and I haven't visited a whole lot about it. And then I've talked to Julie Rother several times, and she's got pretty good ideas. But it's just like we talked, that's how all of us are talking. Well, you maybe could do this, or maybe you could do that.
Right.
And I know Jim sent out a deal that said about, is it 25% of the communities are closing their pools already, Jim?
That's correct.
And 50% are kind of like we are, where they haven't made a decision yet?
Yes.
And then, I forget what the other 25% is doing, but
Door opening.
yeah, and I think delay the opening of it, yeah, so. Is that all right? And then we could get the council together and have them, just by phone, I think we could just call them and tell them what the Board of Health has suggested and then see if you guys agree or disagree. Would that be something we could do?
I think we need to make the call on the pool now because you're talking about employing young people or not employing young people. You know, we're talking about a fair amount of expense to get it ready. And if we can't open until the 15th of July, does that give us much time? You know, and then again, if they keep it to 10 kids, how are you going to tell, you know, 10 kids can go in and play and then in an hour they're out and a different 10 kids? What if you have somebody come over from Emerson? Do they take the place of our Wakefield kids? You know, that I think the pool is really, I think it should be closed. Stay closed.
I tend to agree with you, Val. I don't see how you can justify opening the pool right now, especially if you're going to limit numbers and just the headache it's going to be, number one. Like you said, the expense to open it. And you know, if you're going to have a limited number of kids, and I don't know how if you do swimming lessons or not. But if we can't even be outside playing baseball, I don't know how you can jump in a pool and social distance. I think the thing that is important to remember too is this, you know, I know the governor is kind of probably getting pressure like the mayor said, but this is going to be a marathon. We have to find something that we can sustain as far as keeping things open or wearing masks or whatever. We're going to have to find a balance because everybody, you know, in the medical field, it's pretty obvious that I think this is probably going to come back with vengeance or get worse probably in the fall. So I don't think, you know, I think some people have hope that in a couple of months this is going to go away and we're just going to be able to go back to normal life. I don't think that's going to be for 6 to 8 to 12 months. So, you know, I think we should talk about it every month, but I think we have to find a sense of normal that we can sustain and be able to get by with day-to-day life, whether it's our office staff or, you know, our city workers and things like that.
Well, we haven't made a motion, but we got 2 people on our council that say they think we should not have the pool open this year, and we all feel terrible about it. Larry, what do you think?
How much liability does the city have if we do open something up and we do have guidelines to follow and the guidelines aren't being followed, you know? You know, there's recommendations from the state or the governor about softball and baseball. Who's the police person to do all that if we do open it up and the guidelines aren't being followed?
And you put a lot of pressure on the managers to enforce a lot more rules now than you would normally have to. And people are I didn't tune into the governor's press conference today. I didn't get back home in time, but here is talk to the mayors. But he was talking that 10-person limit and the lessons, and like you're saying, how are you going to enforce it, Larry? I mean, it's going to put a lot of administrative responsibility on some guards and managers. So you don't know, Larry, if you would say close it or keep it open?
Yeah, I don't think they want it. I'm not comfortable saying that I would be comfortable having things open and put guidelines out there to try. I'm just not comfortable. How would you want to send your grandkids to do a pool? I would not. So
you're leaning and saying you don't think we should open it either.
No, and I'm concerned about the baseball and softball too. You know, there's guidelines out there. Who?
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to enforce all those guidelines and keep bats separate, and I just don't know. And then I want to ask Scott, what do you think about the pool, Scott?
I think it'd be very tough to open up. I think, you know, you think of all the things that happen where they're in the locker rooms and stuff like that, and it's just I think it's a huge cost for a minimum result. I think you know you're always going to wonder if then. So I think it's I don't think it's a very good idea to open it up.
And I talked to Julie Rother about our location, as Ross mentioned, close to Dakota County, and she said probably be best if we didn't open our pool. So is there any other discussion at all? Jim, what do you think?
Again, we're listening and looking at what all the other communities are doing. There are definitely more that are not going to open than not. I think it's a risk. Again, I think there's a lot of valid points out there. Is you have just 10 swimmers, you're going to have basically a full staff and a lot of cost to maintain the pool. So is it worth doing it? So that's the question you guys got to answer. Is it worth doing it for 10 swimmers or whatever that number is? So honestly, I don't think that's a good decision.
To open the pool, Jim?
Correct.
You don't think it's a good decision to open the pool?
I wouldn't at this time, at least.
So you would maybe look at it again in a month if things would change, which we don't think they're going to change. But I'm comfortable to entertain a motion by the council if they want to vote not to open the pool this year.
I will make a motion that we not open the pool for the summer of 2020.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll vote. Scott?
Aye.
Ross?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Val?
Aye.
All right, we didn't make any friends among the young people, but I think we did the right thing. So it's a tough decision, it really is. Well, then let's talk about the library and see if we should just take action on that. You want to keep it the way it is, or you want to open it up? Let's have some discussion on that.
What's their protocol for cleaning? I mean, what's their protocol? How do they disinfect?
Well, they do when I haven't been in there that much, Larry, but they do a pretty good job, it looks like to me, but it's something you might want to talk to, is if we do decide to let them, maybe we could wait 2 weeks and make sure they've got a good protocol and then open it if things are going okay. But again, I think, like Scott says, I think the kids are getting books and stuff the way it is. And what they probably would get would be the computer usage, and you'd have to do a lot of cleaning to keep that. So I don't know. What do you think, Ross, along the library?
I guess I feel like if we're letting people into restaurants and we can.
Ross froze.
Lost him.
I lost Ross.
Like I said, we have to be able to find a balance, and you possibly, or people that are high risk, obviously know they should avoid the library. But we also have a lot of people maybe that don't have access to computers and things like that. And, we have to find a way to be able to have some type of a normal life over the next year here. So if somebody wants to take a little chance and go in the library, I don't think it's out of line.
I think they wouldn't be looking into doing this unless they were pretty sure that they had a plan in place that would make everything safe for as many people as possible. So, if
Larry?
Elizabeth and really want to open it and their board is
sorry,
behind
I
it.
didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you had finished your statement. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine.
I interrupted you. Sorry. Anything else, Val?
Nope.
Larry, what do you have to say?
Well, I just wonder what their protocol is. That everybody has to be masked up before they come in. Are we going to provide them a mask if they don't have one, or that would be the big thing I would have is make sure that they're covered up and.
Yeah.
I think if, as long as Elizabeth is okay with it or feels comfortable with it, just make sure we post a sign on the door that you must be wearing a mask when you enter the facility. If you don't have one, you can't go in. Also, probably promote the call-in too for those that don't feel comfortable going into the library. Still promote that to make sure that those that can't go in there can still get books or get what they need if they're wanting something.
Okay.
And
Larry?
so we do the limit of 10 people. Stick with that.
So you want to vote on that? I guess everybody's in favor of it. Is that true? As long as they do a careful job. I don't know if we need to vote on it. Just, is that one of the things you want to do is open the library?
I would say so.
Okay. And then we got to make sure we've got masks available and hand cleanser for the people that work for the city. I know actually they've got stuff in the office, but the guys haven't picked up very much of it yet, so it's kind of concerning. And I don't think they should be 2 people in a vehicle working for this at this time. That's my opinion.
I agree. We really need to keep them healthy, because if we don't have a lot of backup, if some of those guys get sick and are down for 21 days even, that could be a problem.
Yeah, that and their safety as the individuals. So fire department, and I talked to Donovan about the county sheriff, and they said they think that he's got really good protection with the equipment that he has, and he's got everything that he needs. So I don't know if we can do much more with this. Maybe we need to move on. As far as the park, can we open the park and clean and rope off the playground areas, or do you want to keep the park closed?
I don't see a problem with opening up the park as long as the playground areas are all marked off and closed off. It doesn't really do a whole lot or a whole good to keep it all completely blocked off, I don't think.
What about your volleyball and basketball courts?
Those are going to be tough to keep only a certain amount of people in there, I think. I think they got.
Ross, what about volleyball and basketball?
Well, I mean, if somebody brings their own basketball and goes down and wants to shoot hoops,
How about 5-on-5 full speed? No.
I don't think so. That's
They
not
can
safe.
experiment with that. They can, if they've got a system, they could probably do some volleyball.
Yeah, I mean,
So it'd have to be to your.
And like New York City, when this was all happening in New York City, they said, well, we're going to limit it to, maybe, 6 kids on the basketball court or something like that, since we have 6 hoops, and say, keep your distance. And if we see that people aren't keeping their distance, then we lock it back up.
Then lock it back up. Yeah, and it's just like now that things are open. I mean, the traffic on the highways has increased a lot just in the last week. And that's the problem. When you open it up, then people think everybody's safe and they can go back to their previous lifestyle, and that's not the case. So we could open the park, but we better be careful. I think we should clean the playgrounds and then put the tape around them and not put any poles up that might impale somebody, and just put some signage on some of the equipment that says that because of COVID-19, playgrounds are off limits. And how about these teams that are starting to practice on June 1st with baseball? Wait and make a decision next month, or are you going to let them just go and do what they think is right?
Well, we can't really dictate whether they play or not. We can just dictate whether or not the fields are open.
Right. I know some of the kids at Wayne are taking ground balls and stuff, and with somebody hit kids' ground balls, like I'm thinking of the Kneipel brothers are doing that, but they're probably brothers hitting each other ground balls. I don't know.
And truthfully, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. So we kind of play it by ear, but if it gets to be where they're playing basketball 5-on-5 and volleyball 6-on-6 and on the playground equipment, we may have to go back and close it.
Yeah, we probably should have some kind of signage up at the courts if we're thinking about opening those up, that these are the rules, and make it clear that if they're not followed, that these facilities will be closed back up. Unfortunately.
Because I looked across the street to the playground for the first time today. I saw, or yesterday afternoon, I think it was, there were a couple of girls in the swings and stuff. And I was at the park and saw a couple of young kids over in the swings. So I think the fact that it's opened up, they kind of start thinking that they can do all the old stuff again. But
So if we get back to baseball, you said practicing and stuff like that. So are we recommending we're not going to do it, or because I know we have a league meeting, there's a lot of towns that are going to start playing baseball. I just want to know if we're going to allow it or not.
Well, that's a decision for you guys. I think I'm in the minority, but I talked to Jeff Keegle, who's still in the charge of the parents committee, and he doesn't think we should play. I know we've got a few kids that would absolutely want to play, but I think the consequences, with the consequences that could occur, we have to err on the side of safety. I don't know how we could safely get them to a game. You have to have every household deliver their player to the game, or the kids would have to drive themselves to the game. And I don't know how you can enforce that. It would be easier probably with young kids than it would be with the 17 and 18-year-olds, or 15, 16, 17, and 18-year-olds.
I think games are going to be difficult because then you're talking about intermingling people from other towns and things like that too, and that increases the risk of exposure.
Right, and we definitely would intermingle. And then the thing that makes it kind of tough is they're going to open the weight rooms, and now the governor said that they can open, like you can have 10 kids in the weight room, 10 kids in the gym, 10 kids in the other gym. So you're basically going to go back to summer athletic training full speed for the fall sports, it sounds like. And I don't know that that's a great idea either, and I understand where the governor has to make decisions, and he's getting a lot of pressure to open it up. Weight rooms, I don't see that's, I don't know. Anyway, we probably had a good enough discussion for now. We've made some decisions, and we can move on to the next agenda item if you guys agree, unless you've got more things to say.
What
about
are we going to do
COVID-19.
about the baseball fields?
What's that, Larry?
What are we going to do about the ball fields?
As far as limiting anybody on them?
Yeah, are we going to open them up and have guidelines to follow and they're posted, or?
You've got a little bit of time on that. I would keep them closed for now. You can open the ball fields on June 1st. They can have practice. And if we decide we don't want to do that, we'd have at least a month to look at it, Larry.
Okay. So right now, the ball fields will still be closed.
I think so, because, unless you got a brother, two brothers that want to hit ground balls to each other, or something like that.
Okay.
Or a girl's a softball pitcher wants to pitch to somebody. I don't know how you control that and make that I don't know who their brothers and sisters are, but you might have a dad that wants to work with his daughter on softball or pitch batting practice. I think they could use it for that, but
Hold it to a family. I mean,
what's that? Yeah, I think let a family do it if they want to.
yeah, as long as it's family on there. Yep.
Well, let's think about this. We've made a few decisions. Let's go ahead and go to the rest of the meeting. We'll be here all night probably. I'm keeping you.
Paul, just a quick question is, if the governor's not going to allow baseball in that to happen until June 1st, do we want to hold off opening the park till then, or what timeline do you guys suggest for that?
I think the park itself, there's a lot of people that like to walk their dogs and go out on the trail. And especially since the dike will be, when the construction goes on, they will close that. I mean, you won't be able to go through the whole trail, will you, Jim?
No, there's gonna be a point in time when you can use one part or the other, so.
I think people can walk through there, drive through there, you know, stop and look around, and then I think we could open it up, but playgrounds are closed and we got restrictions on the, maybe have somebody make us some nice signs and give us the restrictions on the volleyball, the basketball, and the ball fields.
So you're wanting to open it up like next Monday or just asking?
I think Monday would be soon enough, but I do think we should clean those, you know, those 3 or 4 playground areas real good, and then just put some tape on and some signs on the biggest piece of equipment, a couple of signs, and just say, hey, can't be on the playgrounds, because everybody agrees that they shouldn't be on the playgrounds, the apparatus.
That's why I was asking. They're gonna need a couple of days probably to.
Well, we could wait till Tuesday, Jim. That'd give you Thursday, Friday, Monday at least. Or you wait till, how much time do you need? I mean, we can wait.
I'm not for sure. I'm just saying that we can't open it up tomorrow. We're just trying to get a couple of days to clean up and get some signs up. So.
Well, what are you comfortable with? What day would you like to open it up then? Like,
I'd say 18th at the earliest.
the 18th?
Monday.
How about Tuesday? Let's make it the night. Is it Tuesday the 19th?
Let's shoot for it.
Yep.
Give you Tuesday. We'll try to do that, Jim.
Okay.
All right. Next order of business. Action on small business emergency grant program. Discussion?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys, that was out in a packet for you guys to review. That was something that the Citizens Advisory Committee came up with, is what we're seeing statewide is a lot of the communities reaching out to the businesses downtown and other places to assist them with some emergency funding. If you had a chance to look at the application and maybe some questions on how we would handle that or not.
I looked at it. I know they really wrestled with what's the fair way to do it. And I don't know if there is a fair way to distribute funds. I don't know if we can wait and see where the need is. I don't know if we need to do it now, right now, or if we don't know who got the money for payroll protection with the payroll protection plan. And I'm sure that, I mean, I've talked to people that have gotten funding for that. You might find out that you're giving money to people that have already gotten a pretty good amount of money from the federal government, and you don't know that. You can't really ask that in your evaluation. My thoughts would be I think you're kind of opening a can of worms. You're going to be criticized one way or the other. And I know everybody wants to give help to people, but maybe we could wait. If Ross thinks there's going to be a big spike, it might be more valuable later on than to give it out now. I don't really know, but that's my thoughts. I want to know what the other council members think.
Well, this is what I wrote down, is to treat all the businesses fair and equal. So when you're only saying we're going to give 10 out, $5,000, I really question how we can treat everybody fair and equal. And the other thing is, I was looking at the number of businesses that collect the city sales tax for us should be all eligible, not just 10. And then the other point I had is the businesses that were required to make changes due to the C-19. Either they were asked to close or change something in their business. You know, that to me, that's important. And then what we could do and should do is have somebody responsible from the city just to assist businesses, all the businesses, and ask them if they're got assistance from the state and federal government programs. Maybe some of these people don't have the knowledge to what's available out there to help them out on with the state and federal government. But I just have a problem with picking 10 out when we have several businesses in the community that all need help. And I've seen some of the guidelines. One of them was if they had fewer than 10 employees, but some of these businesses are pretty darn important to this community and collect a lot of sales tax dollars for us. So I just have trouble doing it fair. And I don't know. The community club, my understanding, is doing something with Wakefield dollars to help, and so, and the businesses that were asked to close were the bars and the beauticians, right? Is there any other businesses that were asked to close? Can somebody help me out there?
A dentist,
Dentist?
barbers, hairstylist,
Massage.
Chiropractor.
to me, you can try to be as fair as you can work on it forever to try to be fair about it. And I don't think you'll ever get it distributed where people think that it's fair. And I know some communities are doing this, but I don't know. You got to point the people that were asked to close. But I would think most of them would have been eligible, very much eligible for payroll protection money with their plan. I just don't know how I don't think you can ask people if they got money from another source. I think that's confidential information, I think.
But
I wonder if you,
go
go ahead, Val. Go ahead.
Okay. Part of the grant application has to do with their finances, you know? So somebody's going to be looking at your books. If it was me in a private business, I don't know if I'd want people looking at my books, even if I'm the one who's, scraping by the skin of my teeth. So, and that I think will make a difference. That would hold some people back from requesting the assistance. So then again, I don't know. That's a tough one.
I wonder if we could talk to Megan Weaver about going out and even just gauging interest in these businesses that have been hit hard. If they're interested in something like this, number one, maybe who has collected some government assistance or who is eligible for that. Maybe she may have some knowledge on that. I just, obviously we don't want to go out there and get anybody rich, but I think again, some of these businesses, I think this is going to affect them for maybe a year, so if we can keep them whole and help them maybe make a rent payment or something like that. I'm not saying we need to do it now, but I think that it'd be good to be prepared to do something like this moving forward if needed.
And maybe we should take some time Ross, you think it's going to get worse before it gets better, and it might be better timing to do it when it goes on a little bit longer and give us more time. But I know the sales tax committee wrestled with the idea of how you can be fair. I know they spent a lot of time on it, but in my opinion, we could table it now and come back to it at a later date, and maybe some people could get some information.
Would you guys have any problem if we handed out the application and see what we'd get for feedback? That would give us an indication of how many people would be interested in doing it.
I don't think we should hand them out less. That's my opinion. Or hand them out yet. I liked Larry's idea 2 months ago about maybe having some gift cards that we purchase for the different businesses and pass those out, where you're going to get, you can look for it. Yeah.
I think Megan's online, and I think she might have something to share.
Okay.
Megan, was that you?
Yeah, no, I'm here. I think that I don't think there's any business on Main Street or in our community right now that we want to see go away. And I've talked to several of them, and they're struggling regardless of having that PPP program. That only helps if they have payroll, rent, utilities, those types of things. It doesn't help those businesses that maybe are just a sole proprietor. And I'm not sure that this is sales tax money, which is generated by these businesses. And I think it would be a good, it would look good for the city council and the sales tax to go ahead and show the support for their local businesses by doing something like this. Now, if you guys want to increase the amount, maybe we don't just do 10 loans. Maybe we do as many as are needed. But we just thought that would be a good spot to start.
Well, she's had a point there that they're the ones that are collecting sales tax for us, and that's what I hit on. If anybody's collecting sales tax, they all should be treated fair and equal. They should all be eligible. And if the problem I have is giving the money away, and how many businesses are collecting city sales tax for us in Wakefield? Does anybody know?
I think that, Larry, the other side of it is that, like some of our businesses may not be collecting sales tax, but they are also providing an economic stimulus to our downtown. They're still, on our Main Street, they're still serving customers and bringing people to our community. And without that, like you look at Dr. Bierbauer's office, I don't know that he collects any or, has to pay any sales tax, but he's a great source to have on our Main Street, and we don't want to lose that business.
What about just giving them loans without any interest?
From what I've been told by the businesses is that they really aren't comfortable with taking on any more debt. They're running on a shoestring, as you already know, with being a self-employed business. There's very little profit margin. And I there's also been a lot of businesses that have applied for the PPP and the EIDL loan that have not been approved because they weren't able to get the information in time. It depends on their banks and such. So I'm not sure what businesses have been approved, but I can't say all of them that have applied have been approved.
I have a question, Megan. Is the Citizens Advisory Committee comfortable with enlarging the number of people that receive funding?
Honestly, I see Leslie's on here, and I would probably defer to Leslie on that since she is a part of the Citizens Advisory Committee, and I am not. I just serve as an advisor.
Yeah, this is Leslie. I would say we're not opposed to increasing that amount, but we wanted it to pass. And to be honest, we didn't think you as a council would let us give more than 50,000. That's my personal opinion. And a lot of these businesses that we're looking at don't qualify for the PPP. I don't know if you all understand that program, but if you don't have a payroll, you don't qualify. So like, for example, Pam at Pam's Barbershop, she doesn't have a payroll. Obviously, she lives on any profit she makes in her business. Carmela, there's several of those that don't even qualify for that. And we're trying to think how we can keep those people in business and keep them in our community.
I didn't mind Jim's suggestion about handing out the possible grant paperwork and say, you know, we're looking at it, we're thinking about moving forward, then you would have an idea of how many people would apply. Because I don't know who would or who wouldn't.
And I agree with you, Val. I don't like the part where they have to put down what they made last year during this time period and stuff. I think that's confidential. And I think we know that our small businesses in town are struggling with this. So, I mean, I don't like that part of it. And I don't remember for sure when we met that we said that was mandatory on the app.
To go along with that, I think we have to be able to trust our small business owners in the town and show them support in some kind of way. I mean, I don't know.
Could it be possible to just set aside a certain dollar amount and then allocate those funds as we see necessary? You know, if there's not much interest, we could provide some help maybe to the businesses that need it, or have different levels based on maybe how many employees they have. You know, or say look at Sidelines where they were able to maybe generate a little revenue through takeout, but they probably got, I don't know how many people they employ, versus, you know, some of the smaller places where it's maybe just a one-man business.
And we talked about a scoring system with this, that there'd be a scoring system. So if you don't qualify for PPP, you may get 10 points versus somebody that got 5 because they do, or did get the money. And you hope your businesses are honest and say, yeah, I've got a bigger business. I, got 100,000. I, don't need your 5. But there has to be a scoring system, which I'm not sure has been worked out, that it's scored.
Agreed. And to Leslie's point, the other thing is that the loan review committee will have to look at all of these applications, and the council will have the opportunity to approve or not approve the applications. So even if you guys say, let's move forward with it tonight, the first time that these businesses would have the opportunity to actually get cash in hand isn't until after your June meeting.
And the committee specifically wanted the bigger businesses that were like the Dollar Generals and so on, not to be able to apply because they have more resources than your small one-man business on Main Street.
I think Dollar General has only benefited from this.
But they've had a lot of expenses too.
But again, I think just to reiterate there, if we put this application form out in their hands, we can at least evaluate how many people are interested. And if we need to raise that amount of applicants or the dollars, then we'd have a good sense of doing that. But I think it's urgent to get this going, guys. We can't, there's people out there that are asking for funds, and I think we need to consider doing this as fast as we could.
So how many communities are doing this? Is Emerson and Ponca, in this area, how many communities have a program like this where we're giving money away?
There's not a lot of communities that have LB 840 around us, specific for economic development. So at this point, I don't know that any of the surrounding communities are doing it. I know even Wayne, they don't have any funds available to be able to help with this. Plainview, Pierce, Osmond, those communities are doing things. Phelps County is a big one that's doing things. I think I've sent all this information out to you guys on the communities that are doing it.
My concern is going to be, we're going to have, if we give out 50,000 to 10 people, or 5,000 to 10 people, we're going to have 10 people who think it's a great program, and we'll have 40 to think it didn't work out very well because they didn't get anything. That's my concern.
I think if we can keep 10 businesses on Main Street and in our community, that is going to be well worth the $50,000 that we're going to spend while we have we have the budget to do that. We have the funds to do that right now. So
The question I had was, what's going to happen to the 40 that apply that don't get it?
How many do we have that would apply? I mean, I don't think we would have 40 apply for it, would we?
I think we need to open it up to everybody, every business, and see how much response we get, and then figure out what we can do. If we can give 50,000 or we can only give 20,000. But I think we need to figure out if there's any interested out there and treat everybody, every business the same. Every business gets an application and tell them that we're having this program may be available to assist you in some monies. But until we get the final count, we don't know how much is going to be available. Everybody needs to get one.
Are you willing
to the highway?
Are you willing to hold a special meeting then to approve those loans? Because I think that, again, urgency, there is a sense of urgency right now. We have businesses that are struggling and that we could lose if we don't move swiftly.
Well, 5,000 is only going to help that business survive another 30 days. They might be in trouble.
I disagree with Larry in that I don't think that we should offer this to businesses that didn't have to alter the way they did business. I think only those eligibility should be offered to those who had to alter or close their business.
And I was thinking, when Leslie was talking about a scoring system, would it make sense to, maybe not everybody needs the 5,000. Maybe 2,500 is a good amount for Pam. And so maybe you can take that 50,000 and stretch it a little farther depending on the circumstances, and you'll have it on the application. You'll know exactly where you're at and what is needed.
Right. And Ross, to your point, I do think that, we also do have to consider like the quilt shop. They haven't been required to close, but tourism is a big part of their business, and not having people travel and come from the other communities. I mean, they bring busloads of people in to sustain their business. So, those are the people I'm thinking of.
Right. I guess I would argue that based on the fact that most of their clientele is considered high risk, it's sort of like a church. I mean, it's altered the way they do business. I guess what I'm saying is they're not essential.
Gotcha. Understood.
Designated as essential.
Understood.
I agree with Val. I would rather see us allocate a certain dollar amount. Maybe look at these maybe a little more individually. I think 5,000 is a little generous maybe for some of these businesses. And I agree that we could maybe stretch this a little further. Stop talking now.
The sales tax group designated $50,000. They just tried to make it easier by saying 10 applicants or 5,000. I agree that there will be those businesses that could use 2,000, 3,000, and I think that's a question we just ask them: is there's some funds available? What do you need to stay afloat here? So.
Basically, it's a grant from our sales tax fund, right? They're just,
correct.
So they would be applied for, and some may ask to apply for just 2,500, and that would be fine. But the more we can stretch it, the better off I think the community will be. And if it goes another year, we may be doing this again in 6 months.
Well, 250 billion wasn't enough to get to people when the federal government did it. A lot of people took advantage of it, it sounds like. And I don't know how you can do it fairly, but if you can figure out some way to do it fairly, I would not be opposed to it. But that's the question. Who's going to make the definition as to what's fair and what's not?
I don't think we're really going to know until we know how many is going to apply for it either. I mean, it's tough to make it fair. But I think we got to be willing to offer something to our businesses.
So then hand the forms out and see how many applications you get, and then make a decision as to how much money and are they all going to be able to get it, or are you going to split it up into smaller amounts so they can all get something, or are you going to give away 10?
And maybe once those applications come back in, then the Citizens Advisory Committee could get back to us that this is the basis of our scoring, this is how we want to make it work, you know, and it's looking like it could be this much money. But at this point, I would be in favor of them moving forward. I've heard more good now tonight than my first thoughts.
So you're gonna open it up to all businesses, right? Every business in Wakefield?
And Larry, I'm not sure. I mean, if we do that, you have to be willing to accept applications from Dollar General, Cubby's, Michael Foods, nonprofits, everybody. And I think that's what we were trying to limit is more to our small businesses versus some of those that were corporately owned.
Well, I'm seeing where Cubby's is down 26%, so they could use some help. I don't know why Michael Foods would need any. They're not retail, Main Street. I guess I'm for it if we can open it up to every business and see what kind of response we get.
And I think, Megan, you can accommodate that your concern via the scoring setup. You know, if the business is still, 95% active the way they always have been, then they don't get a lot of points in that area. If they've had to close their doors, and not be available for any sales, any service, then they get a lot of points. And I would trust the committee to come up with the right scoring system.
I agree with you, Val. I like that idea.
And we the ones looking for program next year it'll be a city government because next year it'll look real rosy for us either with our sales tax amount that's coming in. It's not very much. So I don't know if that was adjustment over our previous one. $6,000 isn't very much. So can we table it now? You can hand out your forms and see what kind of a response you get, and then the council can take a look at it.
Hey, Paul, all
Yes.
businesses are going to get the form?
That would be fine.
So Larry, you're telling me.
People who do business
So Larry, you're telling me.
in-home businesses.
Sorry. I was just going to say, you're telling me so if Cubby's qualifies for a $5,000 grant, we're going to give it to him?
I'm not saying, I just want to see how many businesses that are interested in it. And then I think we need to sit down and say, this is who's interested, and then we need to look at them. And I think that, like I said too, how many businesses were asked or had to make changes due to this? Some businesses had to, they should be considered, but I think every business needs to be asked.
What about a business that's spread out of the home, Larry?
Pardon?
What about a business that is home-centered business, that they do everything out of their home?
Yeah, they've been affected too. I know the Wits have. They said they're not doing anything, but I don't know about that because
Probably there's more questions than answers. I think it's a good idea, but I reiterate, I don't know how we can do it fairly. And if somebody could work out a way that everybody would agree with, then it would be fine. But it's very likely that we could get 40 businesses that are unhappy and 10 that are real happy, and that's what I'm concerned with. But we can table it for now unless you guys want to make a motion and just say we got the 50,000 and let anybody decide how to do it.
But if to be fair and equal, Paul, to be fair, if we give every business the opportunity to apply on this piece of paper and then we get 20 back, but at least everybody got the opportunity to look at this paper to say, hey, we're here to assist you maybe with some money. We're just doing some groundwork. Would you be interested in taking some grant money, no strings attached, and see how many we get back? But I'm tired of picking and choosing who gets it, and they're better than somebody else, because I've been there.
Oh, Jesus. I think you need to remember with home businesses that a lot of them aren't even LLCs incorporated. They pay no sales tax. It's just somebody in their home that started selling something. So I don't know that you open it up just to every home business.
Okay, that's the answer I was wondering. I kind of feel the same way, that it shouldn't be open to a person that isn't in a, you know, paying property taxes and running a store and paying the overhead. But I think that we could say that we are in agreement that we would like to use the 50,000, but we're not in agreement as to how it's going to be handed out. So if they wanted to hand out the forms and see what the interest is, then next meeting we could maybe approve what they've come up with, or the council could be involved in trying to decide if a couple of the council members want to help them, they could figure out how you would split it up as to maybe a couple of smaller ones and some $5,000 ones and whatever. But I don't want to be on the committee because I would not have any idea as to who really needs it and who doesn't. So
I think it's
go to people that really could use it, that's really going to help them, that are dedicated to the community, and we've got a lot of people like that, I know.
Yeah, I think we need to get the applications out to all businesses and see what we get back. And I want to see the list that we send them all to and how many we get back. And I think the council needs to sit down with the committee and see where we want to go, because they do need help. I agree there, but I just want to make sure it's fair.
Well, Larry, would you be willing to specify the $50,000 for businesses, or do you feel that that's premature?
I don't know how much money we can give out. 50,000.
We're asking for 50,000, right?
Up to 50,000. That's what we're going to put in the kitty. I think we need to see how many applications we get back. If there's 40 of them, maybe we're going to have to look at the ante. If there's only 20 or 10, at least everybody got a shot at it.
Okay. So you don't think we can take any action tonight, but would be willing to take action at the next meeting? And I would think that they could hold on for a month, because if they can't, they're probably in jeopardy anyway, even with a $5,000 grant.
Yeah. I'm making a motion that we pursued with this grant and we distribute an application to all businesses in the city of Wakefield to get a response back. And at that time, we will make a decision on how much money we're going to put in and distribute it.
And would you go along with just letting I know Janelle's sitting here, she's in the sales tax committee, letting them decide, or would you rather go to a committee of the council or a partnership, or the council help? I guess the council would probably have to approve their work, but I sure wouldn't want to get involved in saying that I'm not going to be in favor of it if they go to all the work of trying to figure out who is really in need and who is deserving of getting the $5,000 grant, or if they want to split them up into a bunch of smaller grants, that would be fine too. But you got give us some direction on that, because we don't want them to put all kinds of time in it and bring a list and then we change the list if they're expecting that their list is going to be the one that gets approved.
Do we need to specify no corporate entities? Could we specify?
We can specify, I think we could help the council can help by giving them some guidelines. First of all, are you all in agreement that we could make $50,000 available out of the sales tax fund? That's probably question number one. At least we would see what we've got to start with. And then we could find the interest, and then we could do the real tough question is figure out a way. And I understand the sales tax committee has been trying to work on a fair way to distribute it. And if they want to get a couple of council members involved to sit in there and maybe give some opinions, that would be fine with me. I don't envy anybody that wants to try to go through that process, but I am impressed that there are people that want to help our businesses.
I think that's a good starting point with $50,000.
Would you make a motion that we make 50,000 available, Scott? Or not?
I would make the motion, and I agree with Ross, to everyone excluding the corporations.
I was just informed that that could affect some of our Main Street businesses, so I will stand down on that for now.
Oh, like who?
I don't know who.
I probably shouldn't.
That's why we gotta open it up to all businesses, guys.
Okay, let's do the 50, and then we'll work on the point system, I think. So let's do the 50 for the businesses of Wakefield. So that's my motion of all businesses of Wakefield.
$50,000 towards to help out the small businesses and to be determined as to what the size of the grants are, and we will find out how many people are interested by the applications. Is that going to work, guys? If so, we just need to stack it and then we'll vote on it.
Hey, Scott, your motion was all businesses, right?
Correct.
All businesses in the city of Wakefield.
Yep.
Not the home businesses, though, Larry.
No.
I think that would be one thing that they said was.
No, I understand that, not home businesses.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Larry withdrawing his motion, so we're just acting on Scott's. You got two motions out there.
Okay. I didn't know we had two. Have we got Scott's motion then to approve the $50,000 for payment to try to help stimulate business for the small businesses and to try to help keep them in business? We need a second to approving the $50,000 to be made available, and that's what we're at, I guess, right now.
Second.
You seconded it, Val?
Yes, I
You
did.
did. Ross?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
All right, Val. And there's a lot of details we worked out. All right. Thank you.
While we're on
Next
this,
item.
Paul, I think we need to draw attention to the community club who has a gift certificate program with a possible matching Wakefield dollars system going right now. So I hope more information goes out about that.
Good.
And that has community club businesses that if people buy gift cards from them now, the receipts can go in kind of like they do at Christmas, only it's by the end of the month. So get your gift cards purchased before the 31st.
So we should
Okay.
purchase gift cards and then we can use them as we see fit in the community. But what's the deadline?
The 31st. And it's, a variety of businesses that belong to Wakefield Community Club. And then your receipt will go into a pot and you might get $50 back. If you spent $24.95, you get $24.95 back, I think.
Oh, I see.
So it's a good thing. So I appreciate the fact that they're doing.
Okay. So if we go in and buy something, then our name goes in for the amount of our purchase. Just like the Christmas celebration deal. All right. Thank you, Val. That is a good point. So we better move on so we can get through our meeting. The next thing is the approval of the right-of-way permit. And if you remember the special meeting, B&N talked about getting approval to work on the right-of-way. And this is just a permit that would be available to anyone that wants to work in the alley. And I believe Lee could explain it better than I can.
Later today, I forwarded the document that we had prepared to Zach. And I don't know if you guys, did you get the agreement?
Yes.
The 6-page thing?
Oh, I didn't get the 6 pages, I don't think. I
It's
read
on-
one top.
It's on there.
But a couple things. Brian operates under, there's 7 different LLCs that he has. So he hasn't officially applied, filled out a permit application or anything. So I'm not sure what business entity he's going to be operating under. But anyway, as you explained it, this application would be for anybody who, wants to use the right of way for fiber optic installation on either our poles or underground. I did go over this with Jim a little bit because there's a lot of specifications in there. So I don't really think, you don't really have a permit to act on tonight, but you do have this application if you want to approve it for anyone that does apply for the permit. Assuming that might be Brian, or it could be CenturyLink, or there's others that have expressed an interest.
Like American Broadband or any of those.
Yeah.
If they do work in the alley, do they have to get a permit before they can do the work? They do, don't they?
Yes, they have to get a right of way, and if they're going to dig, they got to get an excavation permit too.
Because I talked to Wes Blakey, and he said Wayne just has a general application. If somebody wants to do something in the alley, your public works director or somebody signs it. He doesn't even go to the mayor or the council. It just, someone signs off on it that is given that responsibility, and then they get to work. But he said the pole agreement is totally a different application. It's not the same application.
Yeah, some people do it separately. This just integrates both of them. If they don't use the poles, like Brian was just talking about a temporary use of the poles, it'll work for both. It just addresses both issues. So
okay.
So
does the pole agreement say, like, if the pole falls down, the last person that puts weight on the pole is responsible for for paying for the pole? That's what Wayne says.
Well, this says if you got to maintain, there's certain specifications about how close you can be to other people using the pole, and if if it interferes with the city's use, you may be required to take it down or not use the pole. If you do cause disruption to other services, it addresses all those. There's a lot of those kind of issues that are there, and I think this agreement addresses those. So I don't know what you guys want to do. Maybe just the agreement's there, it's ready, but maybe you guys want to read through it, in the next couple weeks or whatever, and then see if we get an application. We've got it here ready to go.
And if we got an application tomorrow, we could have a special meeting and approve it.
Yeah.
Request. And what about the dollar amount, like for the, my understanding is that whatever broadband pays for a pole attachment is the next guy has to make that same cost. Is that right?
Well, it's $9 a pole is what our current agreement is with American Broadband.
And then we have to honor that with the next contractor, right?
You'd want to treat them the same. Yeah, I think you would have to.
We have to treat them the same. I think it's by law we have to treat them the same, right, Lee?
Well, I haven't looked at that, but I would assume you would.
So we've got it available, and that's all we really wanted. So if you guys want to take time and look over it and do it at the next meeting, is that okay? Or do you want to approve it tonight? Because I haven't looked at it closely, but maybe you guys have.
I think we can look at it, and like you said, if someone applies for something, we can do a special meeting.
Okay. We'll table it or we'll go ahead and that's good that Lee has it available and people can use it. And if we have to, we'll meet and we will approve if it deserves to be approved. Thanks. So thank you for that. The next thing we've got on the agenda is the approval of new copy machine contract. And I would like to table that one too, since this meeting has gotten so long. And I've read through all that and I don't really understand it. So I'd like to visit with Zach about it. Is that all right if we table that one, Zach?
Sure.
And then I can talk to you about it. And we'll, because I didn't understand a couple of things and we're getting late on this meeting. And number 16, approval of request for funds for the number 11 for Public Works 525, and I assume that that's with Northeast Nebraska, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so there's no real, this is something that they've done, right, Zach?
Right.
So I entertain a motion that we approve that, guys.
I make a motion we approve CDBG 18 for drawdown number 11 request for $525.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, Russ. Have we lost Russ? Russ? I'll get him back. Scott?
Aye.
There's Russ. Scott, thanks, Russ. Scott?
Aye.
Val?
Aye.
Larry? Next thing, we want to talk with Larry a little bit about the application for the volunteer fire department, and Larry just had some issues as far as, and Russ probably will have some information here too, as far as trying to keep people current on their hepatitis, tetanus, and all those things that are required. We're getting a little bit lax on that. And then Larry's a little bit concerned that we're getting a lot of membership in the fire department, which is great, but a lot of them are out of town and they can't answer. They're not always available to answer the calls, and he was a little concerned about that. So I'm going to let Larry address those things.
First, we got that application for new member, don't we?
Okay, you want to do that first? Who is it, Larry?
Well, we're on number 17, right?
Yep.
That's an update on this.
Oh, we missed
sales
17.
tax.
We skipped 17. No, yeah, we did. We skipped 17.
Yeah.
Update on sales tax steering committee. That's where we need to have Larry talk. Sorry, Larry, I have your name down here, and I got started in fire department. Okay, Larry, go ahead.
That's we've met a few times. We've discussed some potential projects, anywhere from the filter plant, and also we've discussed about possibly a fire hall project, some park projects. Now we're working on a plan to educate the community on our needs and our wants for the sales tax, and also to get an understanding on the sales tax, because it's really two parts. The sales tax is one part and the LB 840 is one part. So we're working on getting a plan to educate the community, the citizens, anywhere from town hall meetings to group meetings, to get their input to what they may be interested in projects, and educate them on our water filter plant. So that's what we're trying to do, and it's kind of hard with this C-19 to get everybody together, but that's where we're going. So
Has this committee been held up?
Thank you. Anything else? Questions for Larry?
Yeah, I was just asking if the committee's been filled. I know we had some
yeah.
people drop off, and
I think they decided to go with the people that they had that remained in the committee. They had a good attendance. They've had good attendance.
okay. Is Megan helping out with this? I mean, she's basically kind of an employee of, partly of the sales tax. Is she kind of boots on the ground for you guys?
She's been coming to the meetings. We asked her questions, so.
I mean, I guess I know one of the limitations of committees like this is people run short on time and things like that. And I would just encourage you to maybe put her to work on some of it too, to kind of get the word out there and help you guys out so we can get this hopefully approved at the next election.
Yeah, that's our goal. We got schedules.
I did ask if they wanted to appoint another member, and they thought they were good to go. They had good attendance, so that's all I know. I know they're meeting on a regular basis, but one of the things they're going to do is each person is supposed to pick 10 people in the community to talk to, I know that's one of the things that they're doing. So anyway, the next thing is downtown plan. Is that right? And you've all seen the video of the Main Street?
I think it looks great. Obviously, it's going to be kind of something on the back burner right now with everything else going on.
Okay, so everybody's seen it. Any other discussion?
One of the comments that I've heard is, how are we going to pay for all this? And I said, it's a process, it's incremental. We don't have to do all of it at once, just a little bit at a time. So I think that message also needs to get out to people.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it's action to approve an application for the fire department.
Make a motion that we approve Todd Payton to the member of the Wakefield Volunteer Fire Department.
Motion, got a second?
I'll second.
All right, Scott, you vote first.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Val.
Aye.
And who did I leave out, Larry?
Aye.
Right. There's public comment period. Utility foreman report. Is Mike still gone?
He's back. His report's on there. He just sent it to me late this afternoon.
Okay.
I don't even know.
City administrator report.
I'll be brief. Did send out information on sales tax. We had that overpayment of $12,000 the month before in March. So our income for April was only $6,070.16. Did get a response back from the Department of Revenue, and all they said was one vendor had grossly overpaid taxes for vehicles. So they gave it to us, they took it back, and we should be back to normal the next following month. The legislative part is mostly, they're in recess because of the virus, and updates from the governor. We're just putting some of that out today. Some high points we're trying to accomplish and open up some of the communities and get these businesses back running. Last thing I had was just a levy update. We did have a contractors meeting last week. Contractor is Valley Corp. They're a good contractor. They've done some work for the Corps of Engineers. They did the Pender project, and they're going to be moving some equipment in sometime next week, around the 18th, through the rest of that week. They're going to start at the underpass, work there, and reinforce that area that has been washed out on both sides of the overpass. When that's completed, and then they'll start with the levee rebuild. So we will be closing the levee certain areas once they get their equipment in place and start working down there. Just a warning: it is a situation, an environment controlled by the Corps of Engineers. They're very serious about who comes into the project or not. You don't walk in there without a hard hat, without a safety vest, and work boots on. So if you want to go look at the project, let me know, and we'll try to get you in there. Otherwise, you're going to be asked to leave. That's it. Unless you got questions.
Okay, any questions of Jim?
Yeah, Jim, I got something that I think we need to do is clean that ditch from the shop out to the golf course road. There's a lot of trash in there.
I had Mr. Myers here last month. He's on our radar screen to come and clean those ditches.
That's not the trash, Jim. We got cardboard, we got plastic,
Okay.
we got milk jugs, everything. It's trash.
All right, I'm sorry. I
Litter.
misunderstood. Yep, I saw that.
One of the things that happened here recently was that recycled cardboard container, which fills up really quickly, but the guys had tied down the lid. It was clear full, and somebody evidently opened it up and put more cardboard in there. And I saw last night it had blown all over. It was like, I picked up about 6 or 8 pieces, but there's probably 100 pieces that are laying in that ditch. And I don't know how we can, I don't know what we can do about that, but you can put it someplace where it's more out of the wind, or if you just have to.
I don't know if we can maybe get another container in there too, wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I understand. We'll get that cleaned up.
Okay, we've got our legislative update. Jim, you just said the legislature's not in session right now, so is that right? We're all done. Recommendations and reports from police review. I did talk to Donovan just to see how things were going, and he said things are going pretty well. He did talk to a couple of people where we're trying to get their lots cleaned up, and he thinks they're making progress, but he thinks it would be good if we had a community-wide cleanup day. Even talked about maybe dropping off a container in the area where one of the houses is, but they've explained that to me that really leads to people throwing everything in the world in those dumpsters, so they kind of hate to do that. So when is the cleanup day, Jim? Do you know the date?
So they really postponed it, and I guess that's really looking to you guys for some direction on that. We were thinking sometime in June, but I guess we have to wait and see what the restrictions are.
Okay. All right. The CRA, their information in the packet. Is that right?
Yep.
Planning Commission.
Not me.
Park Board. The Park Board hasn't met, but they will start meeting, I think. But we do have a project going. We got a $15,000 grant from the College World Series, and we're putting a warning track in. We will not impose on the football field. It'll go to the end of the deck on the left field line, and it will go all the way to right field down the right field line. And it's a big safety feature, we think, because people will know they're getting close to an obstacle that could cause a serious injury. And then we're also, Janelle and I bought some Rosenblatt seats to replace those broken ones, and we've got them painted and put in. We've got a lot of little projects going on down there. They're going to plant flowers on Tuesday morning. We've got some retired teachers that are coming in. Janice Paquishian is spearheading that, and also some garden club members are going to be in there. We're going to take this opportunity to keep working on the baseball field, even though that hopefully people can drive by and enjoy it, and hopefully it'll be better for people down the road that are excited about the game of baseball. So that's the Park Board. Library Board. Civic Center Board.
We have our manager started. She's stepping up the place and working on a few things. And we need to get her a laptop. So I'm hoping there's somebody that has a city laptop that isn't using it, that will turn it back into the city, and we can pass that on to Tammy so the Civic Center manager can have access to a laptop. We're going to see if we can make that happen. And we're also looking for a debt. Sorry, a debt.
I was going to ask a question. Does the couple of questions about the Civic Center. I got a call from Mark Bressler, who said that he liked the trees they put in out there, but the one where they put a section of pine trees, there's one of them that stops him back to his pickup in to get his camper trailer out. And he was very nice and wondered if they could move that one on the east to the west side. And then another question I had, when we talked about hiring somebody to work there, we thought it was going to be 15 hours a week. Did we all of a sudden change that from 15 hours a week to 30 hours a week? Or
No.
is that
no.
when the council discussed it?
No,
Still 15
Paul,
hours?
No, and definitely not less than 15 hours a week. And
Okay.
the maximum that the job will be is 29 when it gets busy and up and
Okay.
running. But
Okay.
right now, yes, we have an understanding it will be probably less than 15 a week.
And the other question
right
was,
now,
can I use the mop for the senior center? Is it two specific, different things?
No, that's shareable. And Tammy and Sherry can visit about any of that kind of stuff. But no, those kinds of things, they're not just to use by one or the other.
Okay, because that was a
Right.
question that Sherry had. Good, thank you. Fire department, Larry, anything to add?
Yeah, hey, before I do mine, Val, I got a question on the community CRA. I see you're interested in buying some properties.
The CRA is, at this point, they have some agreements out with some people on properties they'd like to purchase. Yeah. And I think it's pretty clear in the minutes, and they're in process. One of them is a little further along and a little more sure than the other two, but I'm not in charge of that part of it. So
What are they going to do? What are they going to do with the properties? Clear them or what?
Well, what is said at the meetings is that the properties will be cleaned up and available for development. That's one of the goals of the CRA, and some of these properties really fit well into that. But as far as specific plans, I'm not sure if there are any, nothing is in black and white yet. There's quite a few options, but, nobody's signed on the dotted line yet.
Okay, and also in that report, where are we at with Tom Jacobson?
I don't think we've heard anything from Dollar General. Am I right there?
You are correct. We have not heard back from Dollar General.
So Tom's not in a hurry. He's going someplace else then?
Tom is in a hurry. He would like to be working here. But until we get the written approval from Dollar General, we're not going to be able to do nothing.
Okay. Okay, on the fire department, we put some new members on. I think we need to start getting some minutes from them since we don't get Adam here anymore. We need to ask them to get the minutes from the fire department and the rescue unit and get a membership roster. And the other thing is we got to make sure that when we put new members on, one of the stipulations is that they need to get or have hepatitis shots and tetanus shots before they participate. And we've been kind of lax on that. We need to make sure that they're enforcing that because it is a concern. So, but the new members, they burned a house down out 2 miles east and a mile south. Warehouser's old place, getting a lot of training. So we have a lot of new people. That's about, and our rescue unit should be coming to Wakefield in the next 30 days. So I talked to Zach about getting the funds available. Remember, we set aside some funds for that. So that going to be possible, Zach? Okay.
He's got them up, Larry. All right. Thanks, Larry. Citizen Advisory Committee in the packet, right? Cemetery Board, Hatchery Board, Rehab Board, Tree Board. You got any questions about any of those? Okay, we need a motion to pay the claims.
Motion to pay the claims.
Second.
You did a second. Ross,
Aye.
Val,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
I'll step up tomorrow and do that. Zach, sign those checks. We need a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second for Val.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Ross,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Aye.
Appreciate it. Can we adjourn this off, Janelle?